Suze?
My favorite thing about the last podcast we did was you telling me how you went to Europe with your best friend. And I was like, who's that? And you were like, Isaac, me. And I was just like totally caught off guard, like in your sense of humor.
Yeah. The comedic timing was money. I was like, how could you have gone to Europe by yourself? Weren't you worried that you were going to miss out?
Well, I felt like, didn't you want to share it with somebody? Like that's the thing is like, do you ever get into a place and then you go and you are there and you want to be like, oh my God. And
literally never. Nope. I don't. I love being places with myself. I've always loved it. Yeah. I grew up kind of like an only child, right? I had an older sister who was 2 years older, and women are already like what, 2-3 years advanced. Yeah. So that's like 5 years, which means you might as well not even be in the same household.
Right. So I don't know. I've been exploring that for myself more as I get older. I feel like, is this weird to say, but I feel like as you get older, I don't know. Weirdly enough, I feel like I keep having like a rebirth of like who I am, you know? Like it's like all of these things are like puzzle pieces are coming together and you're like, oh.
What I want to know first and most importantly, I was listening to Deborah Silverman on Aubrey Marcus, and they talk about the elements of personality, about how yoga is the breath, and how in order to be in touch with this deep wisdom tradition, you have to be an air spirit. You have to be able to commune with this kind of vapid energy and do energy work. But in order to own a business, you have to have earth. You have to have the groundedness. You have to be somebody who can look at Excel spreadsheets and balance the books. How does your personality have these two sides where you can, on the one hand, do this kind of work where you're healing people in this kind of way, and then also exist in the real world?
Wow. I think that, well, first of all, I don't think you have to be anything specific to, I wouldn't agree with that. I don't think you have to be anything specific to be a yoga teacher. I think you have to be a person that desires to guide people in their own experiences. So you have to be able to hold space for people to do that. Every yoga teacher is going to be completely different. Personality-wise, for me, the creativity aspect of what I do, and basically, I'm not a very woo-woo yoga teacher. So for me, I'm not like that. I'm probably pretty westernized, though I have studied a lot for over a decade, and I'm a 500-hour teacher, or whatever that means, and all the things. But I wouldn't say to you that I'm not a very woo-woo person, like in that kind of way. I definitely don't want the spirituality piece taken out of yoga, but I also am very careful to not force that down people's throats. I think it's important to have it come in manageable, digestible chunks. And I think that different yoga teachers, different centers, different schools, different places, all bring a different perspective to the practice. And that's good, because then people can find where they want to kind of practice and how they want to practice. In terms of the business mind with yoga, I think it is something that you have to there's a fence there, because it is not easy to mix the two. Whether or not you're woo-woo or not, it's not easy to mix the two, especially when you come from the background of a person that really just was a yoga student who just loved yoga and just loved it so much that when you're a student and you are in it like that, and coming at it from the student perspective, eventually becoming a yoga teacher, but then eventually becoming a studio owner, it's a very different ride. Each piece is very different, and it's hard to sometimes, wear one of the hats. I mean, at times I just want to be a student, and at times I want to be just a teacher, and times and I put my business hat on. I think I do really get excited about the business piece of it, though. I do like it.
I asked you last episode about how you keep it together, meaning how you keep the business together. You must have these great partnerships. And I think that what you highlighted was your husband. Your now husband was the person who helped you run the business, and that really you don't have partners in this other than him.
I don't. I have a really good management team. I really do. I have to say, like, I mean, in terms of, I have no partners in the business, and my husband, it's not his business, it's mine. He has no. He didn't put. A single dime into it. It's not his business. It's mine. So, sure, is he a partner to me in support and in spirit and in being my partner in life? Yes, but it's not his business. He takes a lot of, pride in it because he's seen it from the inception, and he loves yoga, but he doesn't want to be like a yoga teacher. He's not interested in that at all. He likes yoga. He kind of fell into yoga right after college. He had friends that were yoga teachers. That's how we met. We had mutual friends, and he just did more yoga than he probably thought he would ever do because he had these girls that he was friends with and he was going to their classes, and then he met me, and then, he wanted to see me, so he would go to my classes. I don't think he necessarily was like, I need to go to yoga. I think he, there was, to a certain extent, I think he was coming to the class to kind of
To see you. He likes yoga because he likes you. What about the question of love and relationships? What have you learned, and what advice do you give when, let's say, young women that you work with come to you and ask you for advice? How do we get this right? Why haven't I had any success or success in love? What am I doing wrong?
I mean, I've been divorced twice, so this is my third husband. I think that people make mistakes in trying to make people be something that they're not. And I think that many times you have red flags in advance of these kinds of things, and you already know there's certain things. I also think people evolve. I sometimes think that people just change. I know that people say people don't change. I mean, not change in the sense that who they are inherently within them, but where they want to go with their life and what they want to do and how they see their life evolving. Sometimes that changes. Like maybe initially, people wanted this type of a life, and then somebody wants to do something different with their life, and then all of a sudden, people have to give each other the space to learn and grow. And I think being friends is really important. And I think that a marriage is in some ways a little bit of it is a little mini business, I think, especially when you have kids. It's a mini business. I mean, there's a lot of supplies that need, you gotta buy supplies for the business. There's bills in the business, there's roles, there's hierarchy, there's jobs. I mean, there's shifts. I mean, it like literally like shifts, like you're on, I'm on, when you have I think it's a little mini business, and I think that it can get very unromantic pretty quickly. So I think that taking the time to just set everything down and go back to just the two people, you can't do that every day. There's just no way. People can't every day live in this space of crazy romance. But I think that if you take a little bit of time to focus on each other and come back to that, consistently over time, that's good. Staying friends is good, and also giving each other space. To be honest, I think when things go We're a fluffy cat. I love that. When things go wrong, people aren't giving each other space. They're all over, you can't go here, don't do this, or like this attempt to control, not good. I think that when I see the young girls, what I notice is a lot of people, as they're young, pick the wrong people. They're not ready for what they even know, they don't even know what they want. And so I think that they tend sometimes to go for like attraction, which is good. I mean, who doesn't like attraction and all that kind of stuff? But that's not like the building block of a relationship all the way to the end. No way. I mean, I definitely think you have to have that piece. I need that piece, but I don't think that it's the be all to end all, because there's a lot of pieces in relationships that I think are that particular piece over time will change.
Yeah, I always go to the scientific, right? For me, the men are picking mates based on attraction. So they're selecting almost, there's like a factor of 10 higher weight that men put on physical attractiveness than women do. So women care much more about status. They care much more about intelligence.
That was probably a big mistake for me. That's probably where we ended up. I should have.
You just went with hot guys and fuck it, that's it.
I just was like, you're hot. Yeah. I was just like, oh, I like you. You're hot. We're having fun. Let's.
The problem, I think, is related to all of the artificial scents that we're using, and that basically the actual work of selecting the correct partner has a lot to do with pheromones and genetics. Okay. And that what we're really trying to do is maximize genetic diversity by selecting from outside of our clade in order to introduce new genetic variability. So we need to be able to use our noses to select a mate. And that was proven also in a research study where they had the different women would pick the guy based on the smell of the t-shirt. And they picked like the maximum genetic diversity.
I think that's a big thing. I think the t-shirt thing is a big thing. I think, for example, like my husband, when I get close to his face, the way his beard smells is like really, really important to me. Like, I mean, it's like I know the smell even as I sit here and I think of it, and I like it a lot. And I think that's like, I don't know. And see, like, why do you pick one person over another? For me, when I met him, I wasn't gonna be interested in dating anyone. As a matter of fact, I was over it with men. I was extricating myself from my marriage. I was in a relationship that I wasn't, I wasn't happy in, and I didn't know necessarily how to get out of that because I viewed it as a failure. But I ultimately knew that I wasn't happy and I wasn't living the life that I wanted to live. I felt that there was too many things that went wrong between us. I don't know if, like, it kind of just, you got to be careful about how far you go down the path of like fighting and arguing. Sometimes it can just get so bad that like you've chipped that base so many times, it's just, too much baggage, too much, stuff has happened, and now it's just all layered there. It's like murky and sludgy. Think about it, like a swamp of like shit. You know what I mean? That you're just like, and it's no longer like a beautiful crystal clear lake. It's just this swampy shit, and it's all there all the time. That's where I was in, like, there was just too many things. So I thought I needed a minute, like, away from that. I really thought that I needed to like just actually be by myself. I did not intend to meet my husband at all. We met through mutual friends. It was completely happenstance. I happened to be seated next to him at a birthday party, and I didn't know him. Like I said, we had the mutual friends. We were both invited to that, and we were talking, and some of the things that he had talked about, well, Yeah, we were just immediately like just talking, and people noticed that we were like talking to one another and getting really like, I really didn't care about anyone else at the table. And that's just kind of the way it was. And I thought about him from that point on a little bit. He stuck in my brain a little bit, but then I was like, man, I don't know. And then he showed up in my yoga class.
How I think a lot of people feel stuck in their relationships when they're even in a very bad one, even in a situation that they know is wrong, that they have this feeling that they can't escape, that this is somehow their destiny. There's no way out. How do you extricate yourself? How do you make a change in your life? And how do you move on? How do you manifest the things you want in your life?
Wow. Well, I think I have a friend right now that's in a situation that is a really unique situation. And I think, so this has been on my mind a lot lately. I think extricating yourself comes down to, really and truly for a lot of people, finances. And I think, I mean, if you had unlimited resources, you know, however, I would back that up by saying I know there are people that have unlimited resources and still stay because they're maybe completely drawn into the like the constant, it's a, you know, a constant drama or that they're addicted to. I think that, but for most people, particularly, and nowadays, I mean, I wouldn't just say it's men. I mean, I wouldn't just say it's women. I think men too are in that situation where, because of the way the world is nowadays and how much money it costs to live, and once you have a home and this and that and all these things, and you're all cohabiting, it's really hard for people. And then you put children in the mix, but for God's sakes, even pets. I mean, people, like, it's hard to like extract yourself from the relationship. So sometimes the idea of that, like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? How does this work? Who's getting the how? Like, I mean, all of this is just so, it's hard. I think what happens is that you have to visualize what you want to see happen, and you have to make a move. And to make that move, you have to be, I think people have to be in a way where they just really don't have any other choice. And many times, like, for some people, it goes to the way of like, if it just gets too abusive. For some people, there's a fast line if somebody cheated. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the like lines are for people, but how do you extricate yourself from something is you simply do it. It's like a Band-Aid. It's like, you know, I came home from getting my cast and there's a big Band-Aid and it was a big one too, like a big and a sticky one, like a hospital thing. And I said to my husband, you're gonna have to get this off of me. And he said, do you want me to do it slow or fast? I said, fast, just, and boy, it was just like, you know, and it hurt. But it was like,
How do you know that you're making the right decision? So how do you tap into the intuition, and how do you know that this is the real you that wants it and not the artificial you or the influenced you? How do you know that it's not the influence of your parents that keep you in the relationship for the kids, or that it's the influence of your parents' parents or your religious leaders? And how do you find that true inner voice that is really your guide, that self?
well, I do know what you mean. I think society and plays a huge role, in your family and your societal circles play a huge role in, like, let's say you have a husband and you live in a neighborhood and you have couple friends and you all have, you know, and your kids play together and all these kinds of things. I mean, it's very hard for people to break that apart. I mean, in my case with my first husband, you know, he was very much a big part of my family. And my brother-in-law and my sister were very, we were like a foursome. There was like her and two sisters and then two husbands, and we did everything together. And then, so that was a bad, I broke the group up. And anybody that breaks the group up is nobody's really happy about that person breaking the group up. I think that many times people don't want to be that person, so they will not break the group up. I remember when I got divorced from my second husband, my stepdaughter, she didn't want to tell people at school, and she was still pretending that I was living there. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where I think, how do you know, you said to me, that the person's the right person, and how does society factor in? I think people definitely are so influenced by what other people think about what they're doing. And honestly, I think that's people's biggest problem in the whole wide world. You really cannot give a shit what other people think. What you think about yourself is more important than what anybody else thinks about you, because people are going to think what they're going to want to think. I mean, you cannot control it. You could dance around and do whatever. People are going to think about you what they want to think about you. So you might as well just go ahead and do what you want to do.
I love it. Which one was the father of your son?
My first husband.
So you didn't have kids with the second?
No. We had each had our own kids already, so we blended the family.
There was never a plan.
So because I already had my son and he had two kids that were similar age to my son, there was three now in the house, and he had a pretty intense, his end of his marriage was pretty intense, and the kids were really young, and so there was a brief moment, I guess, where we thought about it, but it would just be too many kids. Honestly, there was just kids everywhere all the time, and we had like 5 dogs. So like, it was a lot.
Wow.
So no, we never had any kids together, but I've been in both situations, like having your own kid, being a stepmother, blending the family. And that was tough for my son. That was tough for him. It was really tough. He had a whole different vibe at daddy's house than at my house. And it was interesting for him because he was an only child. When he was at his dad was kind of having like a bachelor pad vibe, like his dad it was like just boys, just him and his son. And then at my house was just crazy. There was like a stepdad and mom, and then there was like my ex didn't have any animals, and we had all these animals, and then there was a new brother and a sister. So we had 2 different like vibes going on. And I think it was really intense. I mean, I think that in general, kids really factor into like once you have them, what's going to happen, because they're forever. I mean, as long as you're alive, as long as they're alive and you're alive, you're their parent.
What's the news from Ohm Lounge? I wanted to tell you, Ohm Lounge is a great name. I didn't say that in the first podcast. But it's sort of a legendary studio name, and one of the reasons for it is sort of obvious, but I think people don't recognize this enough when they're naming their businesses. But like, if you walk down the street and you see a restaurant that has the word Thai in the name, and it's Thai food, like, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a little tacky, right?
Well, I mean...
China Garden. Like, don't eat at China Garden if you want Chinese food.
No. Eat at Sesame Inn.
You got it.
Right.
Jade Lounge.
We're the Ohm Lounge.
It's legendary. It has a name which you don't need the word yoga in the name, because people know who you are. They know the business. They understand what it is.
Well, I don't know. I was probably, when I came up with that name, it was actually a bunch of girlfriends and myself were in an elevator in New Orleans. And we looked out the window and we saw a place called the Ohm Lounge. and it was, I think, a tapas restaurant or some kind of, maybe it was a hookah bar. I don't even know what it was. And we just, like, we were in this glass elevator, and we saw it, and I was like, that would be so, if I had a yoga studio, I would name it the Om Lounge. You know, I just said that. And they were like, yeah. And it just stuck for me. My mom was like, that's the dumbest name. And so many people were like, why wouldn't you name it like Pittsburgh Yoga? Or, you know, like, or Shady Side Yoga. You know, like, it's always like the place and yoga or something. And I get that. And I actually, over the years, I questioned myself so many times, but it was a great memory. And it was a transformative trip that I was on. It was a fun trip. We had a good time. I think I was going through a lot in my life at that moment, and I think that like riding down the elevator, it stuck with me. And for me, Om, the word Om, I love it. I love the word Om. It means, you know, union, connection, and the lounge part of it is that you should feel like you can just chill there. Is like, so when I saw the name, I thought of it. We have a big couch in both the studios. That's the lounge.
Yeah, I guess there's
People think it's a bar. Sometimes.
Well, you should hire me to be there.
And I've had a lot of people who say, what is the OM lounge? You know, or like different things, like, or people say Om
Lounge. Yeah. Well, it's an opportunity for them to learn a little bit about like Indian culture maybe, or Hindu culture or something. Like, where does the Om come from?
Om is Sanskrit.
It's the sound the earth makes, the vibration. Yeah. It's an F sharp. I learned that recently.
The frequency.
And I can sing it. It's the lowest note I can sing, so I know I can hit it every time. It goes, I can do it one octave up easier. That's the sound that built the pyramids. Oh my God. They used it to vibrate the blocks up to the top.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's such an incredible, it transcends everything. It's not a religious word. It's not, and there is, I just had somebody like write it, me, like somebody wrote me a nasty thing one day and it's like, you're culturally appropriating. Oh, my N-word. I was like, I don't know. I think, you know, it's just a word. Yeah. And I like the word, and I feel that I definitely live the word. You know, the word is, it's connection, and that's what we do best at the Om Lounge, I think. How's the Om Lounge doing? We got the 2 studios now. It keeps me super busy. I thought, like, just like you about this whole situation, I thought when I got this cast on, I'm like, oh, well, I'm not gonna, I'll have a couple weeks to just like really, you know, and I've been busy every day. There's nothing like, it never goes that way. I thought I was gonna like chill, and like, I imagined myself like laying in the sun and just like reading, and it never happened. I've been taking calls, I've been having like running around like different business things, manager meetings, just constant. Got to run your payroll. You got to, I mean, there's no stop when you have your own business. There's no stop. You have to decide for yourself. If you want to, when you own your own business, you can literally work 24/7 constantly. You could just stay up and keep going all night and in the morning and go. You can work like that. There's plenty to do, and it never ends.
Yeah, right. Just doing the programming, doing the social media, doing... Do you do it yourself?
I do.
Oh, you gotta farm that out.
I did, but
I feel like that's such a time suck, right?
So farming it out is very expensive, and most of the time it's really not.
They don't do a good job.
I had a girl that did a really nice job, but the issue is that when it comes down to the budget, and here's what I would say. The voice of the studio, they have to know it. And the person that I had, if the person that I had doing it was not a yoga teacher, so didn't really understand like different things. I did have someone at one point who did it, and she was incredible, and she was a yoga teacher, and she, quit at some point, and that was devastating to me because she got it. She had the voice. So you really need somebody that is really entrenched in there, knows the voice, and understands what it is. And with yoga, it's pretty specific. It's like, if you're dealing with like a corporate company, they don't even know what a warrior two is. Like, how are they doing your social media? It's not easy to find out. Now what they have is these things, and I participate in these kinds of things called relays. There's a lot of like these influencers that are like runners. And so you can work with companies so that these people will attend your business or come to classes or whatever business you have. You can own a restaurant, you can do whatever. And they'll kind of do social media and collaborate with you. So I do more of that to get reach, but I just do it myself. And at this point, I think anybody that's even trying to understand algorithms or anything is literally like, what are you doing? Like you're never, just do your thing. I mean, for me, what do I need to reach somebody in Los Angeles for? I mean, I'm not, I have an online platform. It's not my main source of revenue. I'm not selling clothes online.
You guys are selling out all the classes already. Like what more can social media do for you?
Exactly. I mean,
the workshops are bumping, your retreats are full, your teacher training is filled up. What do you need?
We're an in-person place too. I mean, which we thought, remember the last time we talked, we were talking about the pandemic, and we thought that yoga, like the pandemic really took a little chunk out of it, but then, in-person yoga is here to stay. It really is. People, it's a vibe. People like it, and they'll choose their vibe. There's different studios, like I said, different vibes, and people choose their vibe. And I think that's good. Just like restaurants, you choose your vibe. Some days you just want like a diner, and some days you want a fancy. Some days you want a dive bar.
If that was the case, they would all be drop-ins, but every studio is like a subscription model.
Well, the subscription model is based on the fact that you want to build a community, and people, you can't really survive without some sort of predictable revenue. I mean, that's just the piece of business that, I hate to say it, but that's just, if we didn't have to do that, we wouldn't. I mean, obviously the drop-in is the highest price point you can have, right? So I have people that pay for the unlimited membership and take so many classes a month that essentially, if you broke it down in terms of the amount of revenue that you're making off of that person, I mean, they're basically paying like $3 a class, at that point. But because they're taking class so much, so you have to factor in, if you don't have any subscription memberships, you don't have any way to predict the future for yourself, or to know if you're going to be able to pay your bills. So that's why all fitness places do that. But I mean, there's a healthy amount of people that come on drop-ins, and there's a healthy amount of people that just buy like a pack and they don't subscribe. They're just going to have like a pack of classes, use them when they want. There's some people that are always just going to drop in when they feel like it. There's some people that use ClassPass.
I don't like having to plan. That's the hardest thing for me. There's this, at the studios that I like your studio, it's too busy to drop in. Like, you have to plan. You have to have some kind of semblance of planning. Pick 2 classes for the week, 3 classes for the week. Pull down the menu, open up the app, select it, put your credit card information in.
Well, think about that. That's probably a little bit of a, does that hurt me in some ways? Because, I do have people that are like, I've had people say to me over the years, I remember this, that my Sunday morning class that I teach, it's always waitlisted. And so the people will say, oh, I'm never gonna, they've written me off. You know what I mean? So success is actually hurting me.
Don't write Suze off. Never.
They're
write
writing
Suze
me off because they're like, people are liking the class and there's only so many spots, and somehow or another that's bad because they,
That's a Yogi Berraism. He says nobody eats there anymore. It's too busy.
right. It's too busy. Nobody wants to take my classes because they're too busy. But also, the other thing that I get all the time is I'm too hard. It's too hard. I'm too hard, and it's too many people, and it's too hard. It's too crowded and too hard. But I mean, we're not.
I don't think your classes are crowded even when they're sold out. To me, it's like, it's roomy, but I come from that New York tradition of stepping on each other's mats and making a giant mat flotilla.
Yeah, we used to do that. People get real irritated. I think it mostly comes from me as the owner. I absolutely hate being in like a wide fold or like a fallen triangle and like having like that whole, so I don't like it. So I don't want people in my studio to have to experience that. But I mean, we put as many people as we can put in without it being like weird.
What do you think about the wild thing when you put your heel on your neighbor's mat?
Yeah, wild thing. Yeah, I don't know.
That's where it goes, right? If you do it correctly, your heel's
Well, in our studio, I think there's enough space that your foot's kind of in the in-between of the mats. It is. We don't really, but we have it like, so East Liberty is a little different than the Strip. East Liberty, I can't squeeze another person in. Yeah. It is absolutely where there's no, like if somebody comes in, it's like, I remember one time you came, I'm like, there's just no room. Like where am I putting, I'm gonna put somebody out on the street. Like there's just no place for you. But in the Strip district, we have it capped for booking, but then we can maneuver. Because we seem to have more people just walk up and walk in there because it's a very walkable area. So we can maneuver a little bit more people in there. And we didn't adjust the capacity for that because we just do it on the fly.
The last one I took was Sammy's class. It was so dope.
Sammy Larson?
She's such a presence. And
when did you take that?
I guess it was like last Sunday.
Oh, no, did she teach on Sunday? In the morning, 8:30 or something? Yeah.
She had such like it was an early class, and I just remember how impressed I was that she cut the class.
Oh, that's where I saw you.
Yes. But somebody came late, like at, I don't know, maybe like 10 minutes in. We were still doing that intro meditation, and the doorbell was ringing a couple times, and she just kept like going, like as if nothing was there. And it was so cool to me. I was just like, fuck yeah, Sammy, like, let's go. Yeah. That was so cool.
I've known her for a long time. She started taking my classes when she was in college. I've known her for over a decade.
Oh, wow.
So it comes full circle, yeah. I mean, for many, many years, she started taking my classes, and she, like, works with cancer patients and stuff now. And she was taking my classes when she was just at Pitt. Mm-hmm. And she, over the years, she just stayed with it in and out, but she always had this idea in her mind. I remember even when she was in college, just like someday I might want to take teacher training. And when she eventually did it, I think it was maybe a year or so ago, 2 years. I don't know. I can't keep track of them anymore. But she was just a natural. I knew she would be a natural. She was great. Okay, so we did that. We went to Italy. We did that. It was good. Super fun. And we went to Tulum. And we've done that many, many times. And then we went to, that was so cute. It's like pretending he was attacking that. And then now we're going to Greece. So that's coming up.
Oh, that'll be like late summer, fall?
Mm-hmm. Not this summer, next year.
Oh, cool.
We're going to Greece. We're going to do, it's called the Mamma Mia Island, Skopelos. So you have to go to Athens and then Skiathos, and then you take a ferry to Skopelos, the island. And we'll be there for a week, and we'll do yoga, like literally just right there, overlooking the sea. And I'm really excited. It's going to be fun. I love doing retreats. So much fun. The Tulum we just did. And that one, we did that in, when did we go? In March, which was incredible because that was a time in Pittsburgh where I'm just like, oh, because, you know, you just come out of February and you're like, ugh, and it's just, so it really got me over the hump. Yeah. And then we went to Tulum, 33 of us. It's a blast. I tell you what, this is one of my favorite places in the world. I love it there. I really do. I think it's just a freeing, it feels like home when you go. You don't have to wear shoes. You don't do, I mean, it just, you, as soon as you arrive there, you just feel better. You just feel good. You feel like in touch with the world, with earth, with nature, with yourself, it's a simpler way of life.
I think it's a sacred place. I mean, I think that's what it is, right? It's one of the oldest places humans have lived. Yeah. It's probably, people have had civilization there for 10,
like the Mayans and everything. There's a lot of sacred vibes and energy there for sure. I mean, I'm the wrong person to talk to about stuff like that because I don't know anything about the moons. I don't know anything about astrology. I don't know, you know, I'm not a Reiki healer. We have people like that in our studio that are teachers like that. I'm like more of a physical yoga teacher in so many ways. The only thing that I would say is I do love to study the Yoga Sutras. That's my favorite piece of the philosophy is the sutras. I think because they are so relevant even today, like the things that you learn from them is like, it's basically just therapy. That's what it is. It's just therapy. It's like it's just like teaching people, okay, everybody's issues really boil down to, and this is what the Yoga Sutras say, the first klesha, the first obstacle, which is avidya, not clear seeing. So your mind, it's just about what you think in your mind. Everybody's making up stories of what, you know, it's all perception. And that's why people can't get along and people get upset and people get offended and people, you know, get depressed and everybody, it's all in your mind. I watch, like, I think the most thing that you can do because of yoga, I'm so aware of those kinds of things. I see myself when I'm doing it. Doesn't mean that I don't do it. I think that's the funniest thing is people acting like just because you do yoga or whatever that I definitely over time have noticed that I am super aware of what I'm doing when I'm doing it. So that piece of awareness I think is important. If you lack any awareness, you know, just completely. So I have the piece of awareness and it's almost like, oh, look, oh, wow, you're doing that, you know. And then you can choose right then and there, are you gonna, you know, change your behavior because of it? It's just good to know when you're trapping yourself, I think. I think that's what the Yoga Sutras say. It just comes right down to the way that we suffer as human beings. There's 5 kleshas, and the first one, everything breeds off of the first one, avidya. It's misperception. It's how you heard something from somebody. Text messaging is the worst avidya there is in the planet Earth. There's no way, I've come to conclude that there's no way to text message and get the proper tone. Nobody should say anything emojis. Except for yes or hi. Well, I even learned... That's the only
thing you can do.
Emojis.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I even learned that, like, if you say K, that's like a dismissal.
That's a microaggression.
That's a microaggression, okay? Yeah. I mean, I've learned so much about, like, I'm the worst when it comes to all of that stuff. I literally, like, walk right into shit and just blows up in my face. Like, that's...
Yeah. Well, I just want a phone call. I have that problem so often at work because I work with millennials.
Oh.
And they're trying to practice medicine over text message. And it's insane. I mean, it's patently insane.
I
There's
never even thought about that.
literally no way to communicate effectively. Just like you said, you don't understand the context, you don't understand the emotion, and it's ridiculous. So I just tell them to call me, or I'll just call, and they get scared.
Oh my God, whenever you say, can we, so with my managers are also millennials, and they definitely now, so I'm at a place now where all of these, we work really well together, and they all get it. I'm a couple decades older than you. But it was a little bit of a road to get there. They know that I have certain, like, they know that I'm not, the people, I'm born in 1972. I have no desire to offend anyone about anything, but it's just not the way, a lot of these things are not the way we grew up, so we just don't see it. And we don't see it not because we're being, mean or harmful or hurtful. It's because it's just not in our brain, I think. And so they've learned to deal with me. But honestly, if I say to them, hey, do you have a moment to chat? If I say that, it's, oh my God. Like, they're in trouble, they're gonna get fired, I'm like, also, I can't just say anything like, what the fuck, or anything, they're like, like, you can't, I mean, there's so many things. And I do think that the sensitivity level, I don't know, I guess I can't express enough how growing up with like parents that are like, you have to do this and you have to do that, and there's no choice. You're just gonna just work and eat your food and clean your room, and that's just how it's gonna be. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't challenge that. I mean, when I did, I got in trouble, and they definitely were able to. We didn't have phones. We didn't have. I don't know. I don't know if I could grow up today with the phones. I don't know if I could be one of these girls with the phones right today. Like, I couldn't.
How have you seen it affect your own son? Because he grew up with a cell phone, right?
He's not a girl, but I would say that, I don't think like he's worried about, but I would say it made him, what I noticed for him was in his teenage years and earlier, like, not being able to communicate, like just always wanting the phone at dinner, phone, head down, like kind of vibe, and always having to be like, can you put your phone down? Did you put your phone down? No phones, put the phone down. Like,
that's scaring the shit out of me right now. I'm thinking about my own children having cell phones, and my head is getting hot.
Oh, I hated it. And they just won't, like, we would go to dinner at my mom's, like, my mom, their grandma, and we're going to go to dinner, and the dinner comes out, and Sunday dinner, and she puts all the stuff on the table, and they're all with the phones at the table, and they don't give a shit what anybody's saying or talking about. They won't join in the conversation. They don't hear about anything that we're talking about. They're all in their own world, and then they're Snapchatting, and they're whatever, and they can't pause. Yeah. And so it was, it was a constant battle. But I will say, I just saw this thing with Scarlett Johansson. She said that she doesn't have social media because, it was like a quote she said, and I saw her little interview. She said she doesn't have social media because she went on Instagram for like 3 days once. And she said, I'm way too fragile of a person. I'm way too sensitive. I'm too fragile. I am way too triggered. I'm not the kind of person that can be on there. It's a nightmare for me. I just want no part of it. And they were like, so you've never, and she goes, nope, I had it for 3 days. And I was like, this is not for me. And I've never had it again. She wants nothing to do with it.
I love that. It's this same thing again, to harken back to our first episode, episode 7. Shout out to episode 7. Legendary as it was, problems and all, we talked about emotional vulnerability. We talked about how both of us were intentionally avoiding these like horror films, like the Dahmer thing. It was a thing at the time, and how neither of us were interested, and how you have to be careful what type of stuff you expose yourself to, and Instagram is the worst one. You're exposing yourself to so much energy from just all over the world that is 99% of it is not helping me.
Well, I think it's gotten like insane. And I think like my husband is so not into social media and he thinks it's like a huge problem. And in general, he tells me all the time, like he sees like I get affected by it. I mean, nowadays, like what goes on in the world with, I mean, I think this is insanity how what's going to happen with this new upcoming election. Social media, I mean, it is just, it's unreal. I mean, it wasn't like, if you think about, it's just gotten, you couldn't even imagine that it could get worse, and it has. It has. I mean, even 4 years ago, TikTok wasn't what it is now. And like, I think people, the vitriol on social media is a big problem. People being able to, I mean, you know, I say it all the time. You couldn't do any of this. If you had to tell somebody to go fuck themselves, you had to tell them to their face. You couldn't, they had a landline, you couldn't call their house like you could call and hang, prank and hang up. Like you can't do anything. Or you would be at school, you'd have to be like, fuck you, but you'd have to like actually have your face there and say it, couldn't cover it. And you can't like, nowadays it's, we're covering our faces in public and screaming horrible things, or we are making fake accounts, fake emails, fake texts, fake whatever, fake everything. And how is that legal? I don't know. You can't make a fake shit to drive a car. I gotta show my ID to get alcohol. Like at this point in Pennsylvania, I have to have a medical marijuana card. I mean, like, how are you able to have, because it's really stressing out the cops. They can't do their job if people are being stalked, if people are being harassed online, and these young kids, are going through this, and they can't find the person because it's a fake account.
Yeah, with the bullying and harassment. I want to say shout out to Suze for still getting carded at the state stores and for liquor. I think that's pretty awesome. May you continue to get carded for another 100 years.
When my hair was longer, I got carded more. Lately, I think they think I'm a Karen or something. No offense to Karens.
Cool thing you said was about awareness, and it makes me think about memory. The problem that people have when they come to me and they're telling me they have short-term memory loss when they're healthy. There's no other reason for it. It's because there's no awareness going into it. So if you don't remember where you left your keys, it's because you didn't register where you left your keys. You were not cognizant of it. You weren't aware. Your head was not in the game. You were thinking about something else.
So that's about presence, which is what we teach in yoga, which is the most incredible feeling. Because have you had it? Like, have you been on your mat and in yoga, and like you're completely present in the moment and you're just in it, and time, I don't like stand still-ish or whatever. You're in a state of flow and you don't really care. It reminds me when I was a little kid and I would be playing whatever I was playing. If I was playing with my toys, or if I was playing outside, or whatever I was doing, and I just was completely in the moment of what I'm doing. And that is, to me, the best feeling in the world, is that nothing else, when you're either with people and, having a conversation, or when you're at a dinner, or when you're in a project, when you're reading a book, and time goes by and you're like, oh my God, that kind of vibe. That's the best. And that's what I think yoga is aiming to teach, is this idea of like, just breathe. What's it feel like? Now move your body. What's it feel like? And does it feel good? Okay, keep doing it. You're good. Just let time stand still for a minute. Everything is going to be there when you're done, and you can go do all the things. It's a really great way for people to reset their brain. Just kind of get their head right.
Probably a pretty good feeling when you get the class right too, right? When you're performing in that way, leading the class, and it comes together at the end where you got to all the poses you wanted to get to in the right amount of time. Everybody stayed safe, and they all they clap, and it's you know, the shavasana is perfect, and
Why do people clap it after you? I do it. Everybody does it. I don't know what the clap is. It's kind of like weird.
it's involuntary. It's totally involuntary. It's just spontaneous, involuntary, and it's appropriate. You know,
It is. I
because
like
is-
it. I
it's a
mean, it is. It's
performance.
like we all did it, yay for us kind of vibe. But it is interesting, the clap at the end of yoga. Do they do that in any other thing? Like, do you take like a spin class? Do they clap at the end? I don't know.
You do it at the end of a comedy show.
Yeah.
It's a performance, you know. That's why dancers get pulled into it, right? It's like you have the ability because you already have the flexibility, but you're also a performer. You're natural. You belong on this stage.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the yoga teaching, I really think over time I started to realize that performance level, I've had like my ups and downs thoughts about it. Like sometimes I liked it and sometimes I don't. You know, like it's up and down. And what I mostly realize is that I think it does take certain people are able to bring out an experience for other people in that way, in whatever modality it is. And if they can do that, people love that. I mean, for me, I think of all of my yoga teachers that made me love it because, yes, I loved moving my body and whatever, and I loved the practice. But it was most definitely those teachers that I went to in certain classes that brought the practice, made it more alive for me, made me really understand it, made me enjoy it, made me want to do it. And I think, like, I credit those teachers for being able to bring that out of me. I think about a teacher in school, you know, whatever your teacher is, your history teacher, your English teacher, your whoever teacher, if they can teach in a way that you're not bored and you're engaged in what you're doing. And so that's all we're doing. It's just the same type of thing. With yoga, there's, you know, this idea of your energy or what you're putting out into the class. You know, honestly, since I haven't taught in a bit, I'll be rusty. And people will be like, what? You teach for so many years. And I'm like, no, you can get like, you know, I go on vacation, I come back, I'm like, what's happening? How do we do a down dog? We don't even know.
Have you not been teaching because of the decour veins?
I haven't been teaching, no, because
Tenosynovitis.
tenosynovitis, yes. De Quervain's tenosynovitis. Yeah, that's what it is.
Tenosynovitis.
Tenosynovitis. Okay, tenosynovitis. Tenosynovitis. Yes, that's correct. You should know. You're a doctor, but no, I haven't because, well, I teach a sculpt class, which it's not going to work with it. I mean, who wants their yoga teacher to come in with a cast on? I mean, like, I thought about it for a minute, and yeah, I could go in there and be like, okay, everybody here, reach up and whatever. It's just weird. Yeah. I don't really want to go in, honestly, if I'm a customer and have you teach me with a cast on. I don't know why. Just don't really want that. So I don't know. And then I can't teach my sculpt class. Can't do anything on my hands.
It's a lot of demoing, and you just can't do it.
Well, I think there's this idea that, yoga teachers, I think for me, the way that I teach, I do a half and half. I like show things and walk around. So I'm doing like both. I don't just there's some teachers that don't ever do anything. Yes. Except talk. And then there's some teachers that completely only do so I'm kind of in the mix there. I don't like either extreme because I've been in classes where the teacher doesn't do any of it, and it kind of irritates me as the student a little bit, just a little. I like a little bit of them being, I think it also helps the teacher really feel where we're at and things. I also think that being an all levels teacher, I see so many different people with don't always understand what exactly, they like a model. They like to see how you want it to look. And especially with the way that we teach is pretty creative. So a lot of it has, there are some, I think, visual components there for sure that make it like, this is how we want it to look kind of thing. Like, giving them the idea of the transition or something like that. But no, I got the cast on and I just decided that, no, I'm not going to teach and with the cast on. And
It's ironic, right? I told you about how my mom has the broken wrist right now. Yeah. Yeah. She was drinking with 30-year-olds. She was hanging out with her friends in Scotland and partying too hard.
how does partying too hard break your wrist? She fell?
Yeah, she fell off some kind of like deck. Her head wasn't in it. She wasn't embodied. She wasn't focused.
She fell off a deck. Well, I broke all my teeth. I fell. I was at Mad Mex, like 25 years ago, 26, 20. No, like 25 years ago. Yeah, because my son was a baby. I went out to a bar with my sister, and we wanted to take a night, with like a girls' night, and I just hadn't drank for very much, and those Mad Mex margaritas, whoosh, and
Big ass margaritas, they're called.
and then thank you to Pittsburgh sidewalks with all the roots of the trees, and I just tripped, and bam, did I not smash my face on the ground.
Lost your upper teeth?
Yeah, so, well, in actuality, that was the second time I had knocked my teeth out, because when I was a kid in high school playing hockey and street hockey with no safety gear whatsoever. I don't even know how that happened, but I got hit in the face with a stick and broke all my teeth out, and it was literally 6 months after I got my braces off. My dad was absolutely so mad. There was like, so mad. And then I had to have like a maxillofacial surgeon. Like, I had to get like a dental implants because I had no bone. So like, if you do an X-ray of my face right now, you see 2 steel rods going up in they're like right there. Yeah. And then here I was later in life, and I trip, and I smash my face in and break all of the work out of my mouth. I'd have a major surgery to fix that. I still have a tiny little scar.
Yeah. I've seen. There's, all these kind of psychological ideas about losing teeth and how it's like this loss of power. People have dreams where their teeth are falling out.
Absolutely. I have that. I do. I have, for me, I constantly have dreams that I go to teach a yoga class, and it's very disorganized. Like, I go in and I'm gonna start to teach, and nobody is where they're supposed to be, and I start teaching, but they keep like getting up and going out of the room, or like I'll be like, okay, like I'm like, okay, we're ready to start, but then somebody like like we just never can get started. And then during the class, as I'm teaching, people will just like start having conversations. Like it's very unruly, and I'm very like distracted, and I can't. I feel like nobody can hear me, and it's like, and I'll wake up and be like, it's so weird. I have dreams all the time, like, and they're variations of that, like whether or not it's like an event and everything goes wrong, or I don't know. A lot of yoga teachers say we call them yoga dreams.
Yeah,
they're weird.
It sounds like a nightmare, right?
No, it's terrible.
You talked a lot about teachers, and one question is related to the attributes that allow them to succeed, and the common mistakes you see people making, and how you can, the advice you give to teachers to try to hone their talents and set them straight and get them on the right track.
Well, I think that first and foremost, get to class. I think taking yoga is really important in the process of teaching it. I think that I'm in this huge thing where I think being overly creative as a new teacher is not what you should do, because they don't, I'd never want to say to anybody, like, don't try things, because that's not, trying things is kind of how you figure things out, right? So I don't want to sound like I'm saying don't try things. But I think that when you're starting out, you really don't want to be, some of these teachers are just, there's no rhyme or reason of why they're putting anything in the class, and they don't know how to execute it. So in the beginning, I would say to be a little bit like do find some fun things that you can do within the class, but make sure that most people want a really nicely executed class where they can follow you, hear you, and if you're not able to execute, so paying attention to execution and cueing and concise, direct words, speaking up, speaking loudly. I also think get to know people, get to know them, talk to them, see their practice, encourage people. Connection is hugely important. So I think some of the things that hold teachers back: shyness, lack of humor, trying to be perfect or teaching to impress other teachers. Those kinds of things I think don't work. Students don't care about any of that. I think that, in general, I think it is good to have mentors, people that teachers that you like, and kind of take on some of like how they do things and see how it sits in your mouth and in your body, and then find your way to say it. But you should always sound like yourself. You should always sound like yourself teaching yoga. You should always, your personality. Don't worry about, not everybody's going to like you. You're not for everyone. And you definitely have to recognize that. Like, trying to people please and have everybody like you is just going to make being a yoga teacher suck. Don't worry about your numbers. Don't worry about any of that. Just show up, have fun with it. If you are not having fun teaching, if you're making it like this, over too much pressure on yourself, too much pressure in creating your sequences. It takes too long to create your sequences. You don't have a methodology. Once I discovered a methodology for myself, and that's what we teach at the Ohm Lounge, I have I have a formula, and I have it. It's burned into me now. I can create a class like that because I know it takes some time to get to that like fluidity level, but I do think that new teachers, my best advice to them is have a sense of humor. Don't make it overly creative. Don't worry about pleasing everyone, and sound like yourself. Those would be the things that I tell new teachers about.
Is there an app for that? So has anyone built out like a iPhone app where you can drag the poses into a 1 hour sequence and it'll kind of spit out a little text file that allows you to kind of read it off? And do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, there's no app for it, so to speak, but like, for example, if you have the different lineages of yoga at this point, or the different methodologies, and nowadays, like, I've created and copyrighted my own sequencing method, and it's like, you can plug and play. You can plug and play. So could I put it into a digital for the millennials? I guess, but We just have it on paper. I mean, it's just, it's just on paper and the way they format it. I mean, I think that the sequencing method that we use is why the Om Lounge has become popular among certain yoga students, because it's a fun way to practice. It lends itself, it's challenging, but it can work for anybody's body. It can work for anybody's level. I will say that, sometimes students want too many baby steps along the way. With yoga, there's this constant thing, well, do you have a beginner's class? Do you have a beginner's class? And we don't, because there's no beginner's spin class. You don't need a beginner's class. You just come in, and the class is going to get harder and harder, and you're just going to do things, and you'll figure it out. It's kind of one of these things, like if you go to a bar class, if you go to a spin class, if you go to any class, you just go and you learn it. If I went to martial arts, if I went to qigong, if I went to go make pottery, you know what I mean? Like, you got to start somewhere and you got to learn. And I think people coming into the class, students need to get over this idea that it's a performance, that it's some sort of like competition. It's if you're doing yoga right, you don't even notice who's in the room with you. It's fun because the energy's there, but you don't even really notice. You don't really, and also you do not care what the person next to you is doing. You just don't. So I don't know. I think, meow. They don't listen. There's one pose for you. It's called cat.
Let's say that a young teacher comes to you. She's, in general, like, things are going very well. She has 2 or 3 studios in town that she's working at, teaching 2 classes a week at each, maybe, so like 6 classes a week, but still doesn't feel like they're making enough to make ends meet. They're still having to like work somewhere else, and they want to make yoga their thing. They want to take on yoga as a full-time thing.
Yeah.
What are the next steps to make it a career?
To making a career, well, it's tough. 6 yoga classes a week is not going to. There's no health insurance in yoga. You're an independent contractor, and rates for yoga classes, it's getting better and better. I would say my teachers at the Om Lounge, they're doing nicely because the Om Lounge is doing nicely, and because their classes are full, and because they've been there and they've developed that for themselves. But initially, if you're a brand new teacher coming out and you're just teaching at a random studio and there's 4 people or 5 people that show up, the chances that you're making any money are nil. And I would say that to make a living as a yoga teacher, you have to have classes on the schedule, but you have to be doing more. You have to have like corporate contracts, like where you're doing corporate wellness, one-on-one in privates, workshops and retreats. Many times you have to be working within a studio in some sort of management type of position, or own a studio. My best friend, who lives in South Carolina, she does not own her own studio, yet she's able to make a living doing yoga, and she's a Kundalini yoga teacher. But she travels all over the United States, and she charges what she believes she's worth. And she goes around and she does sound healings and Kundalini classes and cacao ceremonies and retreats. And she also does this thing called The Alchemy of Becoming, which is like this, do you know that book, The Alchemy of Becoming? It's about you go deep within yourself to go back into like you as like you find the childhood traumas and like kind of like move your way through them or whatever. And she's one of the she read this book a long time ago, got really into it, and sought out the author, and then became one of the people that facilitates that with this. Anybody can do it if they want to take that road. And so the point is that she's hustling. I mean, she is going, just recently she was in Pittsburgh, then she was in Indiana, then she was in Colorado, then she was in Jackson Hole, now she's in Bend. She's hustling, going everywhere, and she's contracted out her services like that, and that's how and then she does her Zoom stuff, and then she does her Kundalini classes, and so it's like her life is just, it's a constant hustle. And that's what it is to be a fitness instructor. What, I don't care which what fitness type of thing you are, but and if you work in different cities, if you're an LA yoga instructor versus a New York versus a Pittsburgh, there's different like pay grades, but in most cases, being a yoga instructor at a studio, if you work for a corporate one, then you're going to have, and if you're an employee in a corporate one, you likely are going to have to meet certain expectations, or they'll let you go. And your contract is going to have in there, in any yoga studio, is going to have in there that, what the studio expects from you. In our case, we pay a flat rate and a per head. So that's like, there's you get something for walking in the door, because you should. And then I always believe that you should be compensated fairly. If you're bringing 30 some people into a class constantly over and over again, I think you should be paid more than somebody that's not bringing as many people into the class. However, there are certain times that are more conducive to that. So that has to be factored in from a business point of view, because it's not fair then to like the teacher that's teaching on the noon or the whatever class. It's not really as, the peak time, if you will. But I've actually gotten to a place where I think that almost any time can be a peak, because I've taught them all. And you can make it what you can make it. If there's enough people, if you are really showing up, you can get enough people to your class at any time. So I kind of say that. And I also say to the teachers that, I think it's a cop-out when teachers say, oh, I can never have as many people in my class as Suzanne does, or as this one does, or as that one does. Yeah, you can. You can. That's not the way to look at it. You know what I mean? You got to bet on yourself. You can do it. And if you put that energy out, that's what you're going to get.
I think there's an incredible hunger, just like when you were talking about all of the different ways that this teacher is making money and all the different options there are as a teacher, that there's this unbelievable appetite right now for healing, wellness. It truly is a crescendo moment where people are just fed up with Western medicine. They don't believe anymore. They're done. They feel like they were lied to, like there was a sham, there's a scam going on. Everyone's on medication. How can everyone be sick? How can all of us need? It just doesn't make any sense, right?
I don't know.
If every single person is sick, like
it's big pharma.
Well, I think it gets deeper than that. I think the financial side is sort of like just a small part. I think it's actually like dark forces, demonic forces that are trying to, serve their own interests, which are like the depopulation of the earth, basically. Aruman.
Yeah. I mean, it is wild to me, like how I just had a conversation with someone today about a kid she knows, and this kid is so little, and already there's so many problems, right? And the kid is 2. And I get it, because I do believe that there are kids, that the 2-year-old can have like certain things going on, and it's like something's not right, and I get it. I'm not trying to like ever say that that's not the case, because believe me, I will, I get that there are things that are bona fidely, wrong, or that we need to address. But at some times, don't you think that if a kid is just 2, that maybe they're just 2, and there's like maybe they're a little weird, or maybe they're, my stepfather was a pediatrician, and, we used to talk about this all the time, and he was like, I mean, what is normal, in the sense that, like, he was always like that kind of old-fashioned pediatrician that, like, basically if you're not bleeding, you're fine kind of vibe. And those guys were like, you didn't get an antibiotic from them unless you absolutely needed one, ever. I mean, you can't even imagine how much I tried to get antibiotics from my stepdad. Like, I'd be like, I'm sick, just give me an antibiotic. It will clear it.
But now you can't even get COVID. Now it won't come anywhere near you. You're superhuman. That plus the preschool teaching.
I can't get, I don't, yeah, I mean.
Plus all the yoga and the positivity and getting what you need out of your life and going where you need to go in order to be well. Oh, yeah. There's a lot.
Therapy's good too. I have a really great therapist. I do. I don't think it's like, this is what I think about it. Talking it out with somebody that's going to listen and not, so for example, if you're trying to talk to your family member or your husband or your best friend or whatever, anytime you're doing that, there's this like personal push and pull, right? Like my husband, whenever I'm telling him something that's upsetting me, bothering me, or I just want to like, he feels this need to fix it, help me, tell me if I'm wrong or right, like, I mean, there's just like too much there. Same with your mother, same with your, anybody that's emotionally involved. So I feel like for me, therapy, it's not like my therapist is sitting there like giving me these like super cool methods to like be a human, but it's more about like, I'm talking to her and I get to like follow a thread. Maybe I get to go down a path that maybe if I was saying to like somebody else, I would probably like edit, or I wouldn't dive that way, or those words wouldn't come out of my mouth because I need to cultivate the words in a certain way for my audience. So with a therapist, if you have the right one and you have a person that can listen, and you get to like kind of just speak, and if they know, much like a podcaster like yourself, if they know when to chime in and like kind of direct you with your thoughts. I've had revelations like where I'm going down a path and we're just out in the woods somewhere with this conversation, you know what I mean? We're just going, and my therapist is like, she's like, let me go with it. And then all of a sudden, she'll turn me into another way. And then we realize that what's going on, it all comes together. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh my God. And that's kind of like what happens. I think it's just because the person they don't have an agenda. And so if they're a good therapist, it's letting people be seen and heard, and I mean, I'm not a person that's like so clinically critical of like needing certain types of therapy. I'm more like, I got childhood trauma. I got probably ancestral trauma somewhere in there, for sure.
Jew ancestral trauma, pogroms
I started
and
to think
Holocausts.
I think I'm reincarnated from the Holocaust. I swear to God, the one day I was like, I've had some dreams and I was like, I might have been in Auschwitz. But I think like...
Did you ever go back?
No. My mom's been there. No. Ugh. But I do think like childhood trauma, and I think like what happens is, for me, I'm just trying to like kind of understand where I get triggered and why. And I think the combination of yoga and therapy, I swear some of it also has to do with just get older. Just get older, people. Like literally just get older, just live. And I swear to God, like, after 50, I mean, it's just amazing. It's like the eyes are getting like everything's just a little clearer. Not really literally, because the eyes are really bad, but like the eyes I have like progressive lenses now. And how are your eyes?
It's okay. No. I've always had very good like near vision. But Yeah, I've been trying to do eye exercises to try to correct my vision so that I don't have to wear glasses for the rest of my life or get LASIK. There's like these exercises you can do, which I should have learned about as a child. And also, I would say people should spend more time outside. And that's really the reason that we lose our vision. It's because, ancestrally, we weren't designed to spend all this time indoors. And that's probably why we're all nearsighted. We're all constantly scared, like you said, at screens and books and pages and people. And really, what we should be doing is looking at God, looking at the sun, looking at the moon, looking at the stars, looking at the horizon, trying to anticipate where we need to travel for the day in order to make camp, determining how far away the waterfall is and the source of the spring based on the sound, trying to listen for the sound of hoof beats in the distance in order to determine which direction the herd is traveling, and you know, basics.
My dad was like that. He was a Renaissance man. He lived in this like house way out in Washington County, in this like, he had his own water supply, his own generators, his own, my dad didn't believe in credit cards. He's like stashing money in pipes. Like he had guns. He was like this, and I say this in a way like people be like, oh my gosh, I'm saying he was just like living on the land. Like he was the kind of person that could tell you without ever looking at a weather forecast. He was a pilot, right? So they're very tuned in. And he could like go outside and sniff the air like a deer or something, know which way the wind is blowing, when the storm's coming, exactly what the barometer, he could tell you barometric pressure without even fucking going on any kind of app or anything.
All you need to do is look at the golf building downtown. Do you know about that?
No.
Or the dish at the Science Center. The dish at the Science Center has a code for the temperature because it turns blue when it's getting colder and red when it's getting warmer. And then the golf building, do you know the stepped, like pyramid-shaped roof on the golf building? Yeah. It has color coding based on the barometric pressure.
I thought they were just doing that for decoration. I'm always like, is that for Pride Month or is that for Christmas?
That building got bombed by the Weather Underground. Do you know about that in the 70s?
No.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but I mean.
Yeah, the lobby. I think someone got injured too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a crazy story. The other thing to connect to is when you were talking about your pediatrician stepdad, was about this film called Doc Hollywood.
Yeah.
Do you remember it?
Yeah.
It's Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
And he learns a lesson by getting a car his car breaks down in middle America. And he has to work with this kind of old school pediatrician.
Was that Back to the Future?
General practitioner. No. Doc Hollywood.
Oh.
It's also got a great nude scene.
Oh my God. Wait, why am I getting confused with Back to the Future? Wasn't there a doc in there too?
Yeah, there's a doc. He's that's the guy with the white hair. Yeah, I forget his name.
Doc Hollywood, okay.
Hollywood, the Michael J. Fox character is panicked. It's the middle of the night, and this kid comes into the office. He can't figure out what's wrong with him. He thinks he's having a heart attack. He's not. He's turning blue. So he wakes up the pediatrician in the middle of the night. He's banging on his door. He rings the doorbell. The pediatrician comes out. He looks at the kid, gives him a Coke. The kid takes a sip of Coke. He's good. Like he fixed him.
Well, that sounds like my dad. Basically, he was like, if a kid was sick, my dad, this is what my mom said, he'd be like, just give her some whiskey. It kills everything. And my mom was like, what? And, that's my dad. He'd be like, give her a little, like a 2-year-old, give him a shot of whiskey. It'll kill the virus or whatever. My dad was like, he grew up on a farm. He grew up like, he taught himself to fly an airplane. Like, this was the kind of person that like, was like, he could fix a car, fly a plane, build a house. He could make anything. He could draw architectural plans with no training. Like, he was just one of those people that like, and something about growing up on the farm, he learned to hunt and he learned all about farming and growing plants and vegetables and like learning how to do all that. And they had like tractors and they had to harvest things. And my dad was just one of those people that could like, he would go in, he was like such an amazing, he would go into the ocean and just walk out into the ocean and dive, like, it would just find starfish and like pick them up and bring them to me and my sister. And this like creepy starfish was like, and my dad would just like bring it and show us. He was just very much in tune with stuff like that. He took us camping, like, out in the woods with nothing. We were little. And my mom, she was from Squirrel Hill, and she was not a camper. She was not like that kind of person at all. You know what I mean? She's a city girl. So I had this like two different things. My mom was like, let's go to Saks Fifth Avenue. And my dad had us like outside, like camping.
It was just you and your sister.
Just me and my sister. Well, my dad was married before. So we were his second family, my sister and I. He had been married and had kids, and then they got divorced and he married my mom. So I was the second set of kids.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest challenge you've overcome is?
The biggest challenge I've ever overcome? Well, I think that depression, probably. Yeah. And also probably being able to be financially independent as a woman. Those are probably the two biggest things that I've ever had to overcome. I mentally, as a young person, I was in the television news business, and I had like, I didn't get, like my brain, I was in not a good place, headspace, and I noticed myself not feeling well. Like, see how beautiful it is? We're looking out these windows and you can see the trees and they're blowing a little bit and the sky is blue and the breeze and like, it's when you're in depression, you look out at something like that and you don't think it's for you. You think that like everything that's happened, like that's nice that that's out there, but it's not like the world's going on, but it's not for me. Like you don't participate.
What's on the back of your phone?
Oh, this sticks.
It allows it to stick to things.
Yeah, so if you stick it to something, you can do your whatever. So it helps me with doing yoga stuff for when I'm making, like, if I stuck it, yeah. So like, let's say I wanted to do something, and then I can do it. Yeah, you don't need a tripod. Also, to be honest, I like it because if I put it on the table, it's like, and then I can't knock my phone away.
Yeah.
Wait till you see this. Tell me what the first thing you see is. See this? Wait, watch this guy. Just dial it back. But I'll tell you my friend's comment when she's okay, ready? Oh shit.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I've seen this guy before. He's stuffing. That ain't real.
He's stuffing. I'm gonna tell him that they said it's a very cool move. But this is what they're acting like is yoga now. Do you see what I'm saying? Like it's like I get that that's cool and everything.
Go back to that.
I'm not gonna teach.
To that dick.
I know.
That was insane.
So
Watch that
she
again.
said, I mean, the penis is all I see. That's what she said.
That's not a penis. That's just a bulge. There's more than penis there. This doesn't make sense. Right? That's not the shape of a penis.
I mean, you're a doctor.
It looks like a fist.
I'm getting another one of those too.
Yeah, none of it makes any sense.
Okay, so yeah, I mean there's this different thing that's going on in yoga now. It's called like mobility, right?
Yeah. Leo, what is it? Leo moves?
Yeah, so like I love mobility stuff. I love transitions. I love to not use hands, things like that.
Yeah, animal walking.
But I also think, yeah, and you've been in my classes like that. But I also think like it gets to a point where everything is becoming like, that's not really yoga. Do you know what I mean?
When does it stop being yoga?
There's nothing about that. Like, I think that's great. It's movement.
Yes.
Maybe it's yoga inspired or whatever. But I mean, what's he really doing? Like, he's not really doing, I mean, he doesn't go into a dragonfly or anything. I don't even know what that is. Like, it's just a move. It's just a move. It's not yoga.
Oh, who's to say it's not yoga?
Well,
What do we have to use? We have to use the Sanskrit names now?
No, I'm not saying it's not. What I'm saying is that it's not. The problem with yoga is that there's a PR problem with yoga because nobody knows what the fuck it is. Like, it's like you have, literally people will come to class and then they're like, we try to put on our website, like, basically, this is what we do, right? Yeah. Because what's happening is in the world, you know, things go, Sally over here is like, oh, my therapist told me to do yoga, it's good for me, right? And then they come and all this shit's going on and they're like, this is not, or somebody goes to a power yoga studio or a hot studio or this studio or that studio, and they, all these different modalities. So there's the public, just the word YOGA, and it's a million things. There's no like specific. So what I'm saying is it's kind of a little bit of a PR problem because when you run a business under that, right, then you're, you know, it's really hard when people, you know, you can put all these things on your website and be like, okay, this is the style we practice in, this is the way our classes are, you got pictures and videos and all this stuff, and people still come in.
What's the harm in that? They show up, they don't like it. On to the next one.
There's no harm in it except for when they're actually like, I've had people like, well, okay, so one time this one teacher told me, these two ladies came up. This is the East Liberty studio. And this is a teacher of mine. She called me after class to tell me this. So they come up, and you know at East Liberty you gotta walk up those stairs. Both of my studios, you gotta walk up the stairs. Well, here's the thing, it's like Italy, right? There's no accessibility, the stairs are there. There's no elevator. Why? Because honestly, if you can't walk up the stairs to the class, I don't know why you would be going to it. And I think the truth is that there's nothing wrong with that. It is what it is. So these ladies came up the stairs, and when they got to the top of the stairs, they were mad. Stairs. So many stairs, you know. And you might just think they're being silly, but they weren't, okay? They were like kind of like actually annoyed. And then both of these women were like older, and I can say that because I am older, you know. So when people are like, I'm older. So they were older, and they weren't really dressed in what you really actually should wear for yoga. They were really wearing like thick, heavy clothes.
They came to audit the class.
Right. I don't know what they were doing. And then they came in, and this teacher was a younger teacher, actually an old soul young teacher. She's been teaching since she was young, great teacher, fun girl, and actually one of the nicest, like, I mean, I just would nickname her Sunshine if I could. You know what I mean? Like, that's how she is. Likes everybody, makes everybody smile, great person to listen to in class, whatever. So they put down their mats, and she starts the class. Within 10 minutes of the class starting, and you know how our classes go, we do a little breath work, a little bit of intention setting in the beginning, like kind of giving you something to chew on mentally. And they just sat down. And then, so that's fine. You know, in yoga, I mean, if you want to bow out for a second, take a child's pose, whatever. Like, we always tell everybody, you do you. So they did that, so she didn't necessarily think too much of it. We've seen it all, you know, whatever. And then they both laid down on their mats, on their backs, and turned towards each other, like they're like you're at the beach, like laying sideways, and just started to have a conversation during the middle of class. And so the other students in the room were like, because everybody's a little whatever.
So how did she handle it, and what's the appropriate way to handle it?
Right. So this was a big thing. We had to talk about it at the staff meeting. So she didn't know what to do because she'd seen a lot, but she'd never seen this. So she was like, okay, yeah, shh. Like, can you guys keep it down? Like, basically they're having their own party. And other students started giving them like the side eye and whatever. Well, they never got back up. And in fact, one of them, during the class, they start giggling, laughing. Now remember, they're like older. And so then the end of class, they got up and they went to the teacher and they said to her, that was the biggest waste of our time. That was the worst thing I've ever done. That was so stupid.
Did they ever get up and do anything?
They didn't do it. And then they said, I couldn't do any of that. And that's so, it's supposed to be good for people. And that was, and they were just giving her like all of this shit. She didn't even know what to say. And she just looked at them and she was like, well, and they were like, and we won't be back. Sure. And so.
Thank God. That's my response.
Well, so you have this young girl who is just like, basically just got chewed out in front of all the other students and these two ladies. And meantime, this is what I said to her when she called me. I said, first of all, they look like idiots.
They don't sound like ladies.
Well, yeah. I said they look like idiots, and I'm sure that everyone in the class also felt that that was inappropriate. And she said, but it was to say that was a waste of time, and the word that they used was worthless. That's what they said. And so here's the thing. Those two women were told to go to yoga,
Yes.
and they don't know what it is that they're doing. They think it's all the same. They think they're going to sit down, and we're just going to sit there on a little pillow. Do you know what I mean?
Let me ask this question.
Yeah.
Is there a class anywhere in the world that they could have walked into that they would have been happy with?
That's a great question, Isaac. I don't know. Maybe.
I think probably not, right? This is like an archetype. This is a person who is not willing to be satisfied, is not willing to be happy, is not willing to experience joy. And we have to recognize it for what it is and run away as fast as we can.
Ran away as fast as you can. Well, when you're I think that's, generally speaking, once I calmed the teacher down and I said to her, here's the thing. They obviously didn't look at the website. They didn't read anything. They came to something. They made all these assumptions. They were mad the minute they had to walk up the stairs. It's not your fault. And, that's that. Having said that, though, I realized this has happened to me many times. I just had a lady do this to me and basically eviscerate me because I put jumping jacks in the class. And she didn't know there was going to be jumping jacks. And we did some jumping jacks. I just felt like it doing some jumping jacks. And she was like, you can really injure people. And I was like, who the fuck said you had to do the jumping jacks? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just don't do them.
What's wrong with jumping jacks?
She I don't even want to, she has issues with her knees. So that was my fault.
Oh, it's like too.
I'm supposed to.
It's too ballistic, or it's like too concussive. Yeah, impactful, concussive.
So there's no accountability. The teacher, I'm supposed to know in a class of 30 people what everybody, and I'm supposed to ask everybody about their injuries and all this stuff. No, you come and this is the thing that I can't stand. Back in the 1980s, when people did yoga, they would come into a little room. There's like 5 people, and the teacher would be like, does anybody have any injuries? And then the teacher would be like, what are we doing today? What is everybody, Isaac, what do you?
I still hear that. I still hear that at a lot of classes.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
When?
I still get that from many studios. Absolutely. Yeah, injuries, especially when I first started, it was like, who has an injury? Like, let's talk about it. Like, nobody would answer usually, which is why it's such a waste of time.
Are these classes like a class of like 30 people? That they're asking that in?
Maybe not. Maybe closer to like 10, 15 at most, or like 5, 10.
I can't imagine in a class of like 30 people or these big studios where the teacher would be like, any injuries? First of all, what are we going to do? Go around like kumbaya and talk about it? I think the time for talking about this is at the front desk. Do we need a talking maybe we need a talking stick? I mean, can you imagine like going around and like being like, I think it's up to a student to come in and say, hey, listen, this is what most of the students do. They come in, whether they're new or they're not new, and they'll say, oh, hey, my shoulder, I've been having this thing, so if you see me over there doing whatever, just FYI, I'm not going to do any shoulder stuff today. Or do you, would you have any recommendations for me? Or I just, or they'll say something, or they'll say, hey, by the way, I am in my second trimester. I'm not asking anyone about their personal health issues. I think it's on the student to let you know what they're comfortable telling you with. And I'm certainly not going to ask in a room of 30 people what your injuries are. So that I have first of all, nobody's going to answer, but if somebody does, it's going to be awkward.
It's not gonna help.
And what does that mean at that moment? If I say, is there any injuries? And you say, as a matter of fact, my ankle. Then I say, okay, Isaac, well, guess you're not gonna Warrior 3 today, and you're not gonna
We're not going to adjust the fucking sequence for one person with an injury. Right. And it's like, what am I going to... My bunions are fucking killing me today. Like, no.
This is what I mean. How is that... Okay, let's just say you do that. Then what happens?
It's not an option. Yeah, it's unhelpful. It's a waste of time. Let's keep going with the peeves.
Yeah, peeves.
How about the little card with the adjust me not? What are we doing with that? The red side for the no adjust, the green side for the let's.
You know what? My managers and staff, pretty much once a year, we have somebody on the staff will say, hey, why don't we do that? And we have a discussion, and we all come to the table at the end of it and say, this is dumb. Because what happens is, and no offense to anybody that does it, because I get it, but we actually really don't touch people at our studio. And you know why? Because I wouldn't touch anybody now, unless at this day and age of the world, are you kidding me? And I don't want to. The only people that I ever touch are students that I clearly know already, that practice with me, I have a relationship where I understand that touch would be welcome, that I can move their body a little bit for them, or that they want. Anybody that's coming in my class that I don't have I'm not touching them. And I'm not touching you to adjust your form. What's the point of that? Why is everybody so I think that touching people in yoga is not necessary. I really don't think it's necessary.
The right cue can adjust the form of 35 people.
I think this dealing with the public en masse in public classes daily, where you have constant flow of whatever people coming in, you also physically adjusting students in a class that is it's not a private lesson. There's many students in there that are there for the class. You can't be over working with one student.
Yes.
I think there's little hints and things you can do, little taps with a hand or good verbal cues mostly. I personally like to go next to the person and show them with my own body, not this, or can you go like this, or use my own body as the cue. I just don't know why I have to get in there and move their body in a certain way. I think there is some sorts of yoga, like Vini yoga or different types of yoga that's almost more like physical therapy type of yoga, where you're really adjusting people. I think that should happen in a private lesson setting, or more of a setting where you're dealing with a workshop, where you specifically put out there on the workshop, this is a hands-on adjustment workshop. So then anybody that signs up for that is clear. With this chip thing, where it's just the regular class, it's who wants to be the person that says no or yes, and everybody's looking at everybody, and it's just a funny thing. Even when you do things I have my oil with me, if you want it, put your left hand to your heart, or whatever. And I know that a lot of people do this. I always think it's weird, because then I feel I see the students from above looking to see whose hands are on the hearts and things it's bizarre. Yeah, but see, it's once you start to do this, it's just I feel don't touch people. Let them do their practice. Is it really that big of a deal if their side angle isn't that perfect? Is it?
If I dig deep and try to actually analyze why I want hands-on assists, it's never never has to do with alignment. It was this thing in New York where it was like there's two reasons. One is like some kind of weird sexual thing, and another is massage. Like, I like massage. Massage is amazing, but it's not a massage class, it's a yoga class.
Right.
And two, the sexual thing, to expand on that, young, beautiful female yoga teachers. Some of the assists, I'll give you an example so you have an idea. This is something from like New York that you would see a lot. It's locust. It's like a locust setup.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm locust.
Are you in locust?
In my mind, yeah.
Yes. Pelvis on the floor.
Yeah.
Chest up. And then the adjustment is after you're done with locust, you're laying there and the teacher rubs on your sacrum.
Yeah.
Kind of like presses on the sacrum.
Or even stretches you from like your right shoulder and like pushes sacrum and
They're just rubbing the sacrum to stimulate the genitalia against the floor.
You think that's what they're doing?
What else were they doing?
Well, I'm pretty sure they're probably just doing an assist that they like learned.
Yeah. What do you think the point of that assist was, Suze?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, but like,
I'm gonna tell you,
I'm pretty sure that's what they were doing.
I literally think about this all in the past. It was such a big deal about yoga assist, and I'm 5 foot tall.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say I go into adjust a man who is 6 foot tall. Okay, nothing of my body is gonna line up. Like, it's bizarre. If I try to adjust a down dog, like, it just doesn't, it's awful. I think there are like some weird sexual connotations. I think that you can really offend people. I think you can hurt people. And I think in general, what I say, because at my studio, I don't want the liability of it. Honestly, I say to my teachers that adjustments, it's almost like those things where it's like, is it true? Is it necessary? You know, the little, what's that like 4 thing that you say when before you
speak, think, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? That's really good advice.
So let's talk about that with adjustments.
Never. All three.
Yeah. In fact, I love that little saying, because actually if you walked around and had to like use that for everything you said, you would be like, oh, no. No, I'd be like this, no.
The first 2 are not so bad.
No.
The third one's a fucking doozy.
I'd be like starting to talk and I'd be like,
What if that was the case for the podcast? That's all we would do.
that should be like a Black Mirror episode where like every person has to go around and there's like a checklist before you open your mouth.
Yeah.
And then you would get beeped or something, like you wouldn't be able to say it, I think. Yeah, so okay, pet peeves, adjustments. I think that adjustments, a teacher that is a very skilled adjuster who has a good reputation for doing that and has an understanding of it and has the right space and environment to do it is fine. My thing is I just don't think it belongs in the public day-to-day yoga classes. I think it should be more specialized, and I think it should be for reasons where, like, for example, if you're doing a workshop that is talking about alignment and you are specifically wanting to say that hands-on adjustments are going to be given because this is an alignment-based workshop or something like that. We've done that with beginners workshops. We have more than one teacher teaching the workshop, and the whole point of it is that you want the teacher to show you, where should my foot be, where should my hips be, and you want that, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to break it down, and we're going to do it, but we also say it, and you sign up for it and going in knowing. And and we have the time for it, and everybody's on the same page. And in that case, I'm down with it. I'm not down with it in the chip thing, like you said. I just think it's a mess.
What about just a nice shavasana adjustment? Nice 2 hands on the shoulders. Maybe a little massage.
I love it, but I still tell my teachers not to do it to anybody that they don't know.
Just for their friends or like people they care for.
Well, so at this point at the Own Lounge, we have enough students that regularly come that, I mean, first of all, you're not gonna be able to do that to 30 people and during Shavasana anyways. But for me, I like take it by like, okay, so here's this row, right? And I can maybe do like 7 people, and I'll just go down the row to everybody that I know is a student that I know is fine with it. For example, if there's somebody in the row that's brand new, I've never met them, or they've only been to class a couple times, and I'm not quite, I don't have an eye to eye kind of thing with them, I will probably just move past them until I feel comfortable that they would be, I don't want to get into all the logistics of it when I'm teaching. Like, I don't want to be like signing waivers before Shavasana. You know what I mean? Like, I just kind of go around and I give the head rub or the oil to the people I know like it, and that's that. And then if once I get, so that I think is good. But again, it's the same thing I tell my teachers every time. You don't touch anybody you don't know, and you don't touch any new students, and you don't it's something that you reserve for people that have been practicing with you for a bit.
What about if they're, just getting somebody up into handstand, getting people up into challenging poses and kind of supporting the torso to try to...
Just say, can I help you? Here, do you want me to hold you? I know a teacher that, and this was a situation that happened in the yoga community here, a teacher that I knew that was adjusting a headstand and was accused of sexual assault. And I don't know all the specifics of what happened, so I don't want to even go into all the specifics, but it was a girl and a girl. So in other words, it was a female yoga teacher and a female student. But, there are some adjustments that we're taught in teacher training, like right out of the gate, that are just these kind of old school 101 adjustments for headstands or whatever. And one of them is to take a fist, and like if you're up and you're kind of bowing and flopping around, it's just like to take your fist like kind of between the thighs, but more towards the knees, but not all the way down there, but it's kind of like not up into the groin either. It's just kind of in the middle there. And just tell them to squeeze your hand, because they have that thing, and then they draw up, and it really actually is a great adjustment. It really helps a headstand. But the problem is that, again, why? Like, so you need to, like, we just did a headstand workshop, and we 100% just, when we were going around and helping people, I just kind of come over and I say, do you want me to hold you here? Are you okay if I put my hand here? But again, this is a workshop environment. I'm not doing this in a regular vinyasa class. It's just too much.
No need. No necessario. All right, let's keep going. Couple more.
Okay. Pet peeves for yoga from
the teacher standpoint, absolutely. No, let's go teacher.
Teacher?
Because I'm trying to think if I have any. Yeah, well, I mean, I have a million, but they're all like words and phrases that teachers use. Things like shine your heart.
Do you not like that?
Nah, I don't like breathing into anything other than my lungs.
Breathing into what?
Like my kidneys, my bowels, my belly, any part of my body that isn't my lungs, just because of my I'm a fucking doctor. Like, I don't like that kind of, like you said, woo-woo stuff. And then if you're going to reach for the stars, you should be outside, moon, sun, anything.
Say ceiling, yeah.
Right. Or similarly, the route to rise has got to go.
Route to rise.
Not a fan. Don't know what it means. It's bizarre. Drop anything. This was one that was given to me during my teacher training, right? Is that there's always a better word than drop. So if you
lower,
release, lower,
drop down. I know drop.
Drop your arm, drop your foot, anything like that. It's not yogic to me.
Reach, release, lower, yeah. Sometimes I think things just pop out of people's mouths, but I will say, okay, from my point of view, teacher-wise, what I, students rolling their mat up in Shavasana drives me nuts. I think it's a big thing with a lot of teachers. Because honestly, like I've watched it happen. They spend the whole Shavasana rolling their mat up. And then you're literally ending the class and they're just walking out then. And I'm like, wow, you saved yourself 3 minutes. Like, what is that? And then you annoyed every single person in the room who, while you fussed with your stuff. And so I think that's insane. I also think like students that, I think, I don't have that many crazy students, but I do. Okay, I'll tell you something. Really weird puffy mats. And the only reason why is because I'll see these people come in and they're those like puffy, almost like mats that people use that are for something else. And you are in the, like you're in the, you're in golden hour. You were in golden hour.
Red up like news. You're on the road tonight.
Here, go slide yourself this way. Okay. So, oh, I was good. You're not. Okay. So,
It's me.
the puffy mat. I don't like the puffy mat because what happens is, and I don't like when people wear socks.
Oh, yoga socks? No good?
No, they don't wear I mean, they're socks, not yoga socks.
They're literally wearing just regular socks?
They're socks, yeah. Like the socks you wear with your sneakers.
Oof.
I think it's a pet peeve for me because I know for a fact that they're not going to enjoy the class the way they should because you actually need your toes to move around and your ankle and feet and toes are all apart. That's what yoga is. And so the reason why we practice it barefoot is because you're using the toes because actually shoes and socks make feet weak. And so we practice barefoot. So when people when they won't take their socks off, and I'm not saying it to be nasty, I'm just saying you're not going to get the best experience. And so that drives me crazy because I know they're not going to like it as much. And I feel like that's going to reflect on me, but it's really not. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're just not going to like it as much. And if your mat is like puffy and slidey, here's the thing. I know people they think, oh, it's puffier, so it's gonna be good for my knees and stuff. Use a yoga blanket or something across your mat. But if your mat is like that and you're sliding all over the place the whole time, you're just not gonna have the best experience. And I can't tell people enough, forget the $200 yoga pants, get the mat. The mat is all you need.
You like a jade or bamboo?
I love a jade, but I'm a jade fan. I love it. I mean, I've tried all of them. Everything from, I've tried the Lululemon, I've tried the everything. I think it's personal preference, but I would say to anybody, whatever your personal preference is, just if you're gonna spend any money towards anything for yoga, spend it on a mat.
That's cool. Yoloha? Do you know about the cork mats?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one
They
of
were
my
made
friends.
in South Carolina.
One of my
Charleston.
friends has a cork mat, loves it. I think I'm happy with the cork. What I'm saying to you is there's some mats that are really just the kind they are not. They're just.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the rubber bullshit mats that that were the ones we all had when we were at the gyms.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah, and
The ones they would just roll out
they're
and it's
bumpy. They don't even lay on the
thick
floor
and it
nice.
does
And
a little wave thing.
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's falling apart because it's made of just
Yeah, we just had that the other day where we had a student that the mat was falling apart, and so the girl that was cleaning the floor afterwards was so irritated because we couldn't get. There were so many pieces of it just everywhere, and we even found it all across so she's supposed to be there for 15 minutes just doing the floor, and instead she winds up and she comes to me and she said, Suzanne, I tried so hard and I'm still finding pieces of it. And she was like, and I was like, it's okay, you can leave. You know what I mean? She was just at her wit's end. She kept finding more pieces of it. And I was like, oh boy. And we you know, I mean, here's the thing. I think students in general, you know what, if you're going to be late, just call. Because we can't hold it that long. And we have a buzzer system and all that. If you're going to leave early, just tell them beforehand. Because then all you want to do is just leave before we go into Shavasana. If you really do need to leave, just leave then. Don't leave during it. And teacher-wise, in terms of what I think about what annoys me from yoga teachers, I can't stand it when I can't hear you. I can't stand that. If I'm in class and I can't hear you, I can't stand it. And I don't like when yoga teachers apologize if they like mess up. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't like that. I just think like it makes me feel bad or like unsettled if I'm in class. Like, if you just keep it rolling, be self-deprecating. I mean, listen, most of the people in the room for sure can't do what you're doing anyway. They wouldn't know how to do it. So it's fine if you called it left when it's supposed to be right. It happens. Just be like, instead of getting all upset about it, just say like, whoops, I mean right. You know what I mean? Or just keep it going. Keep it going. Yeah. And don't get so, and I also don't like when yoga teachers just stay on their mat the whole time and don't look around the room. I don't like that at all.
The inauthenticity, I think, is the biggest actual problem. Like if you see somebody and you can tell that they're doing something that doesn't belong to them, like they're being overly spiritual and reading from books and playing a harmonium, and it's like if it's not their authentic kind of vibe, that ain't it. And
would you say you like a spiritual yoga class?
Not really. No. For me, like I kind of guess I'm with you. It's sort of separate. It's more of like a fitness thing. And like I have my own methods of spirituality. I don't really, I don't dislike it, but I'd rather go to a puja. Like I'd rather go to an actual kirtan, like an actual ceremony, or a full moon drum circle, or go, over Memorial Day. I was at my buddy's house and we were playing his Turkish instruments and drums, and like that's, to me, that's spirituality. Music is my spirituality. Yeah. When I if I go to the right club and the right DJ is on, and like, and I'm in my own space dancing, like that to me is my spirituality. So I don't need it at my yoga class necessarily, and I think it can muddy the waters a little bit.
I think it's like, I like a teacher, if you want to connect like a reason, or if you want to connect the practice to something for the day for me, if you want to be like, hey, here's this idea in class today, let's focus on trying to do this as you practice kind of vibe. I like it to be connected to, why are you telling me this? What I don't want to hear is, I don't want you to therapize me. And I get uncomfortable when there's a little bit, like you said, I think if you're going to certain classes for specific reasons. So I like a little bit, what I think sets yoga apart from other modalities is that there is this idea of like centering in the beginning of class, but you're just not going to go in and be like, yeah, no, right? Like you're going to sit down and you're going to breathe and you're going to get your head together, you're going to center, you're going to ground a little bit before you start practice. And I like that. But I also don't like when it takes too long to get moving. But I think in general for me, I like a very rigorous yoga class, because I'll just not do something if I need to take a break or whatever. I'm fine with that, but I'd rather it be more challenging than less challenging. I'm kind of like deflated if it's less challenging.
Here's the other one. For really every yoga teacher, I think it needs to be shorter sequences on each side. That if you do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 poses on the right, we don't remember them on the left. You've lost the element of us knowing what the sequence is. Oh, yeah. So do 3 things on the right side and then 3 things on the left side. Then we remember it.
Well, here's
go
the
to the
thing.
next one.
Right. Well, here's the thing. If you're doing it like in our sequencing methodology, they actually have posture counts. And so we have this thing where I call it over sequencing. And the whole point that I'm trying to create with the Om Lounge sequencing is that is the whole point of it, because you guys, you learn something, you flow it, we're repeating, you know what I mean? And it's going on, right side, left side. Many teachers tend to over sequence. They tend to take too long to get going, put too many postures in, we call them rounds, like the sections. So what I did was I created like posture counts, and I tell the teachers like, okay, so in this section, you know, no more than 4, in this section, no more than, and so that's kind of the vibe, and that helps the student, because this is the whole idea, we call it vinyasa krama. It's the whole idea that the student likes repeating what they know, getting good at what they like. So they're like, okay, the first time they learn something, they're a little rickety, and then now it's like whatever. And then by the end of class, they're doing that same move over and over again, and it's like they get good at what they practice, and it becomes more familiar. And when that happens, they feel like they're part of it. And when they are completely confused, playing like Twister the whole time and don't know where they're going, like you said, they get like frustrated, and then the class experience is not doing what it should, which is to bring them into this state of connection and awareness. No, I don't want them to be on autopilot where they're not present and just kind of going through the motions, and that's what happens in certain places where the sequences are so formulaic and they're like over and over and over the same thing. Then the student gets like,
Sun A, Sun B, Sun A, Sun B too many times. Like if you do that the whole class, you'd be miserable.
that's what's so lovely about creative vinyasa. But again, watch the over sequencing, and I can't stand that either. Like I'm like, I can't believe that. I think those like breaks, like, you know, do some things, break it out, flow it again, now add a little bit more. But like, remember, just keep it little chunks, little chunks. That's what I like. Keep it moving. I want you to, like, when you take my class, I want you to feel like the worst thing I think to be in class to feel is like, oh my God, this is like, if you notice time, if you know, like, if you start to like feel, and to a certain extent, I guess each person, each student, that's part of the yoga, is like doing that. But I guess for me, I consider my job to be to make the experience such that you are in the present moment, and you're there and you're flowing and it's done. You know what I mean? And it's like that's kind of how I like it to be. I feel like lose track of time, like be in the moment, not be counting the hours, not looking at your watch or anything like that, you know?
At its best, I mean, I've said this many times, but at its best, it has all of the pieces of life. You are born, you know, you wake up, you become conscious, you have a development phase where you become stronger, you get more aware, you lay down, you go to sleep, and have the eternal rest.
Mm-hmm. That's what it's meant to be. Like, I mean, you literally, like, you go, and if you think about it, you know, Shavasana is called corpse pose, which we don't like to say that because apparently people get really triggered, but I get that. I mean, corpse pose is kind of yucky, but that's what it is.
Little practice. I like this band called Y with a question mark, Yoni Wolf. He says, I sleep on my back because it's good for the spine and coffin rehearsal.
You won't catch me in a coffin. I'm getting cremated.
It's not very Jewish.
Oh, I know. Well, I'm a secular Jew, so. I know, you're not allowed to be cremated.
My mom's getting cremated, and
Is your mom Jewish?
yeah, well, she's a convert, Baptist, born Baptist.
Okay, so your
in
dad was
Oregon.
Jewish.
Yeah, my dad's the Squirrel Hill Jew.
Oh, your dad's a Squirrel Hill Jew.
Oh yeah.
I bet he knows my mom.
Alderdice, I'm sure.
Oh my God. Alderdice.
Yeah,
How old's your dad?
1978 graduation from Alderdice, maybe. They just had their 50th anniversary. Does that sound right?
Okay, so my mom is way older than your mom, or way older than your dad.
My dad just turned 70.
My mom is 76,
Yeah.
but older days.
Yeah.
Same thing.
There you go. Maybe she knows my dad's older brother, Bob,
How old was he?
4 years older. So they would have overlapped a little.
Oh, yeah. I'll ask her. So does he have the same last name? Yeah. So your dad was the older days Jew.
Yeah.
Interesting. My
brothers.
mom was the older days Jew. My dad was the South Hills Catholic.
Ah.
So I'm a split
You have the
too.
same idea, kind of.
Yeah,
two
except
different
I
worlds.
have the mom as the Jew.
Right.
But I think like, I don't know, so your mom converted.
Yeah. I think
My dad never converted.
I think the sorry. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much it matters other than for like the religious Jews, the mom has to be Jewish in order for whatever, like to move to Israel, to make Aliyah or something. I don't know.
Yeah, if I wanted to move to Israel, I could make an aliyah by going there because my mother's Jewish, I guess. Yeah, I mean, if that's the rule. I don't know. My mom was like, I mean, she doesn't even know Hebrew or anything. I mean, I do. She doesn't. Like, she didn't have a bat mitzvah or anything. I did. Like, I mean, I think my mom wanted that for us. I personally rebelled against it highly, only because it would have been the same if it was, believe me, it wasn't about like, I was rebelling against religion, organized religion, basically. Like, I was rebelling against, if you had made me go to CCD, I would have done the same thing. You know what I mean? I just didn't want to go. I didn't want to. And now I actually look back at that and I kind of think I was kind of a dick because really,
You ended up teaching people religion for your job, sort of?
well,
Giving people a religious experience or something?
I mean, yoga's not a religion, but I do think that it's like, I wasn't fair or kind about like my mom trying to like, give us some traditions that she wanted us to have. And I think like kids don't see those kinds of things, like the value in them when they're young. And nowadays I look back on it and I think I was kind of a dick to her about that. But, I liked that I had parents of different religions. I didn't feel, I'm not a super religious person, so I don't practice any particular religion at this time. Like you said, maybe just the religion of yoga.
Definitely. The religion of money, the religion of capitalism.
The religion of capitalism.
I mean, that's one. Yeah.
Is that a religion?
It's the biggest one in the
Well,
world.
that's something that, that's like, boy, being a business owner, you get the whole, like, here we are, the backbone of society, the small business, right? We make all your lives fun. But yet the capitalist, if you're trying to run a business and you're doing it, I mean, capitalists get a bad name. They get a bad name. They do. They do. I mean, you think about it, it's like this idea of like, okay, American dream, you have your passion, you're going to create businesses. When we had all the businesses were closed in the pandemic and you saw what the world was like without the businesses. Okay, no.
It's just fucking Walmart.
Right. It was disgusting. Like, you need the small businesses. They're the fun.
Like, I hate my life. I need to get out of this house.
I mean, don't even get me. I can't. I've rarely been in a Walmart. I mean, it's like maybe 3 times.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
What do you think the meaning is if it's not some kind of religious vision of a God who put us here? Like, do you think about the purpose of what this is or what we're doing here?
I do. I don't know. I guess as I get older, I think those kinds of ideas about religion, the Bible, the New Testament, the Torah, whatever they are, I think that it's just people trying to live with purpose. I think religion is just people trying to have faith and live with purpose. So I think it can be whatever you want it to be. You know, being a good person. I do have some sort of, I don't even know what my spirituality is because it's not necessarily dedicated to one particular religion. Like I said, I don't specifically practice religion. Now, growing up, yes. Did I go to the synagogue? Yes. Did I have to go to Hebrew school? Yes. Did I have to go to the high holidays? Yes. Did I have to sit there and fast on Yom Kippur? Yes. Did I have to do all that and sneak a Wendy's on the way out? Yes. You should have seen me at Bethel over here. I would sneak out because there was a Taco Bell right around the corner, and my sister and I would be like, do you think we can say we're going to the bathroom, make it to Taco Bell, and get back? You know, that's how terrible we were. Awful. Just awful. It's bad. I mean,
You were just hungry.
we were starving. Our stomachs were growling because Bethel was conservative, not reform. And it was going on and on and on. And my stomach was like, wow, you know, and I'm like just fading. And I'm on this bench. And
Cold new drink.
and I was miserable. And I still see myself in like my tights and my patent leather shoes and like my dress my mom makes me be in, and sitting in there and listening and listening and listening. It's all in Hebrew, and it's forever.
What's the relationship with you and your mom now?
Oh my God, I love her to death.
Yeah, it's all water under the bridge. You've completely accepted everything all the decisions she made. You recognize how hard it is to be a mom and recognize that she did her best.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that my mom, you know, she had her own challenges, and my mom grew up really poor, and she grew up in Squirrel Hill, and she was, her dad was, my grandpa was quite a character, and her parents were divorced and married twice. They got remarried to each other twice. Can you imagine?
No,
My mom.
I can't.
Yeah.
After going through that,
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay,
Then they got remarried.
I'll take any of the other 5 billion.
No, they did that. My mom's brother died in Vietnam. She had her mother died very young. So there was a lot of tragedy. I think in general, I was a tough teenager for her because, you know, I was rebellious and I was a little bit, you know, I have that side of my dad in me. My dad was reckless, you know, a little bit, yeah, I don't know. My mom is like on the straight and narrow. My dad was like a little bit of a wild one, a little partier. He always would you know, kind of step across a line. And I think I take after him. My sister takes after my mom a little bit. So I think in general, yeah, now when I look back at what she, you know, was pushing for and stuff, I literally think about how dumb my what was I so angry about? What kids, you know, everything is, they're so selfish. And you think about, I mean, I had them, you know, they are. Everything is literally just in the moment right here about them. They do not give a shit about you as a parent or what you're dealing with or going through or what anything costs or how the complexities of what it is to be an adult raising a family. No, why would they? I mean, they just don't. I never did. I mean, my parents, you know, you thought of them as this entity of they were gatekeepers. Especially when you get older, it's just, you know, why can't I go here? Why can't I have this? You know, it's just boundaries and gatekeeping. And I was tough. But no, now my relationship with my mom, she's, you know, I'm very close with her. My father's dead. He passed away in 2019. And I have my mom and my sister and my brother-in-law and their kids is pretty much my immediate family. We don't have a big family. My dad's family, both of him and his brothers are all passed away. It's kind of weird. They all passed away within a year of each other.
How did they meet and start a relationship?
Oh my God, it's the best thing ever. My dad was a pilot and my mom was a flight attendant. And my dad walked U.S. Air. And my dad walked into operations, and my mom was like, that's what she said. She was like, ooh, who is that? And she asked her friend, and she said, well, that's Russell. And my mom said, oh. And the next thing you knew, I mean, they were talking, and then my mom was flying on the plane with him, and then she was actually engaged.
Oh,
And
wow.
she gave back that ring.
Incredible.
And what was head over heels for my dad. They were married like 6 months later. She went crazy over him. He was like the love of her life. They got divorced though, but that happens.
Anything you want to plug or anything you're working on you want to talk about?
Plugging. Well, yeah, we're doing, okay, so one of the best things, we took off of teacher training last winter. I'd been doing 2 teacher trainings a year. And I love teacher training. We let in only 12 to 14 people each time. And so we don't overdo it or anything. Like we're not, for us, I mean, I think that the members on my staff that do it with me, they say it's the most rewarding, super fun thing that they ever do. Teacher trainings are just so fun. It's a great immersive experience. I love it. It's like one of my favorite things that I do. But we needed to make some changes to our program because nowadays, you know, we were always tweaking it and whatever, but nowadays, I think for people's lives, it's very difficult to do these like long, immersive things. So with the ways that things have changed in terms of the standards of Yoga Alliance and stuff, we've changed our program. So this whole winter, we've been working on this since January. We have created a digital platform where we have like when you're in our teacher training, you're going to have a login and you're going to go in and you're going to go through the lessons online. You'll have to complete one before you go to the next and so on and so forth. And we'll also have in person, but we're going to do a lot of the nitty gritty stuff that's just like the constant kind of fundamental stuff is going to be like work on your own pace, on your own time. Kind of, you'll have like a syllabus and you'll work that at home for yourself. When we get together, we're gonna do a lot more stuff together that's less like rote. You know what I mean? Like very much more collaborative and practice and in people interactive kind of. And so we have modules. It's going to be a hybrid program, and so I'm excited about it. Our first one that we're doing like this is August 17th, and we're almost sold out for it. But that one it'll be the first go around with this new platform, and I am really lucky to have some, my management team and myself. We've been working on it, and it's hilarious because we're literally working on this ourselves. Watching us figure out, like, see how you have all these chords here and everything you're doing? Okay, watching us just get that all together, like the 4 of us, like, was a whole day, okay? That was like a whole day. And then we had meant to do stuff that day, and then it took a whole day to get it, like our camera right and everything. So we were like, at the end of that, we were like, oh, we're so tired. Okay, we're gonna do this. That was the day.
I can always help,
It was a lot. It was a lot. So we did. I mean, we have like that one room in the back. We're filming everything, so that's cool. We have that coming up, and I want to start to. I'm working towards releasing a 300-hour advanced training.
Oh, dope. Very cool.
Yeah, and I'm working
That's to lead teacher trainings, basically. So the 200 hours is to teach.
No, I am already. I'm saying
You already have your 500. I'm saying you're developing a 300 hours so you
Yes.
can teach people to be teachers of teacher trainings.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing.
That's
The
a
advanced
big
teacher,
step.
yeah.
I have had to put it on hold numerous times because different things happen in the studios or in the other things that we're doing and that have to take my attention, but that's getting done. And then, someday I'm gonna finish my book.
That's the main question. the novel, right? It's like it's pieces of your life, but a little bit enhanced and whatnot. Are you working on it?
It'll be fiction,
Yes.
but it'll be fiction derived from some experiences that I've had, but I might take those experiences and expand them in a way that's fiction. So like I do this a lot when I'm somewhere and I'm like, what if this happened right now, or that happened, or imagine this or imagine that. So I'm very much going to take things of my life and take them in directions, make up the characters. But yeah, it'll have definitely things that have gone on with me that I'll probably like. I have like, I'm definitely not a typewriter computer person. I'm a journal person. So the real challenge is that getting it all into the laptop is the problem, really, because I like to write with a pencil and pen or paper.
There's technology for that.
You can just write with a pencil and pen, and then you can just put it into the machine. It'll scan it and turn it into text.
That's what I've been starting to realize. So I'm like kind of happy about that, because the idea that all of that would have to be typed in was extremely daunting to me. And I was like, no, this isn't. When I figured out how to use the Notes app scanner on my iPhone, I literally was like, this is unreal.
Yeah. I mean, and the ability to search for text and photos is like definitely a game changer. Do you remember the TV show Ally McBeal? Mm-hmm. Do you remember how it would be like regular life, and then it would kind of warp into her fantasies?
Yeah.
And so you would see her inner fantasy world kind of manifest in the middle of regular life. Yeah, that was interesting. The other question is what you told me that you stopped teaching because of your wrist, and the question is where did that energy go? So what have you been doing with your free time?
Well, up until I got the wrist surgery, I had a lot going on, and so it was kind of like a nice reset, because to be honest, after I got that done, for days I was like a little like, because it was a lot. And then I had my son came into town with his girlfriend, and so that was great. I got to spend some time with him.
From Boston.
Yeah, I was really happy. I don't get to see him that much. He's his own man now, and being around him, so I'd like to focus on that. So that was nice. And we've been working on some other projects in the studio. We have so I was doing some other stuff behind the scenes. We have this in our software. We're working on a new element of it that I had to get trained on, so I took some time doing that. Like I said, I thought I was going to lay out and sunbathe and read books. I did read a couple books, during the time. So I got through a couple of them. One of them about menopause, which was great.
Is it called The Change?
No, it's literally like
Change.
It's totally about menopause.
I love that it's called The Change.
It's talking about like the way it's really and truly nobody knew. Oh geez, nobody knew nowadays people are very much starting to understand like what's going on with females and menopause. And
you mean we shouldn't just pump them full of hormones as soon as they hit 50 and just see what happens with the breast cancer, cervical cancer, ovarian cancer,
and literally acting like women that are over 50 should just like basically die. It's like, I was like,
One of the craziest things,
humans actually are designed to live into their 60s and 70s for really only one purpose, and it's to pass knowledge on to the next generation. When, like, we don't have a clue. When you're born, when you're growing up, when you're 20 or 30, that's the age you are when you're supposed to raise children, but you don't have a fucking clue how to raise children. The only person in your life who knows is your parents. They're supposed to be like, help you. That's what their job becomes.
I'm learning how to deal with it. I'm in menopause now, so it's interesting. When that happened, I was what? I still feel like a kid. I don't know what the fuck people, you know what I mean? I'm 52. It's crazy to me. I actually welcomed it because I didn't want to have a period anymore. I'm great.
Yeah.
But, I think it's definitely a little bit, you are shriveling up a little bit, and I don't like that. So,
When did you start period?
oh God, I was a teenager. I mean, I was a little late though, 15 probably.
Yeah.
I wasn't one of those young ones.
And it's, I don't know whether you want to talk about this stuff, but you had the one pregnancy for your son, right?
I did. I had a pregnancy, I had an abortion, I had, I don't know if I had a miscarriage or not. I'm not sure. You know how sometimes it's just, you don't know. If it was just I didn't know. But yeah, yeah. I mean, I was on the birth control pill for years.
Yeah.
I did that whole thing. I think people should just do what's right for them. I know everybody wants to decide what's this and this and this. I think you do what's right for you. If you like to eat a certain thing, if you like to take a certain thing, supplement or whatever, you know what I mean? I think if somebody tells you oh, well, this works for me, it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. You have to do what's right for you.
I think I see both sides so heavily in regard to the issue of the pill. It was called the tool that liberated women. It was this kind of amazing miracle drug that freed women from the responsibilities of parenthood and allowed them to finally have sex like men.
Yeah.
And so I see that, as empowering feminism and empowering women, absolutely. But also, I've seen some of the clinical trials that show the rates of depression, the issues with blood clots. The reason that I ask every patient that I see come in with idiopathic intracranial hypertension, which means headaches and blurred vision, whether or not they're taking oral contraceptive pills that contain estrogen, it's because they cause blood clots. I'm not saying 100%, I'm just saying it's associated.
I would imagine that I always wondered if some of my depression didn't happen because of that. I was so young, and it there's no way for me to know, but I mean, it certainly happened after I got on it. So, it's just one of those things that you can't, I mean, for my life, look at the trade. I don't know, what's the trade-off, I don't know what the trade-off is there. I don't know what, what it would be if I didn't use it. I think a lot of women get on it and it makes them stir crazy or gain weight or, like you said, head. I mean, there's so many side effects. I had to maneuver mine a couple times, and my doctor found one that was I really had no side effects, so I thought. But initially, when I got on, I had a lot of side effects.
I have been talking to a lot of men on the podcast, and I'm always talking to them about how their libido is their superpower. For women, absolutely also, but fertility is a superpower for women, right? And we're taking a medicine that takes it away. Mm-hmm. Just like in Brave New World, Aldous Huxley, people take a pill to take away their fertility and to take away their libido so they don't have to think about sex. Men watch pornography so they don't have to think about sex.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's very much, I mean, I guess the idea would be that you're taking the pill so that you can have sex without the ramifications. Some people don't do that though. They just, I mean,
but of course all the ramifications are still there. And in fact, the most important ones are, right? So baby is a big deal. I agree. But what about the energy exchange? And what about the fact that you are, you know, sharing a part of yourself with someone, whether or not there's a, you know, a pregnancy? It's just like you're leaving a piece.
Yeah, I mean, also, I'm a big proponent of personal accountability and responsibility. I mean, you know, I can't say that I always have been, so I get why, and I do think there's serious reasons why women need to be accountable in whatever ways they're going to choose to do that about, you know, what they're doing with their sexuality. They do, because you invite a lot of issues into your life, whether it's, you know, I personally think that for me as a young woman experiencing sex when I was in my teens, I was too young to understand it. And it was really, so my journey with that, I think when I look back on it, I think that if you are a young teenager woman, I think that, you know, really being in a certain headspace or certain place, and I just wish that I hadn't been. I was so young, and I couldn't deal with the emotions of it. That was my thing, and it made me crazy because I was so young. I just couldn't deal with the feelings I felt from that. It was too much for me, and that was me personally. I'm not saying that that's every girl, but for me personally, at, you know, a young age, I didn't even know what to do with that. I didn't even know what to do with the feelings that I had about that. And then, you know, here's my boyfriend, like, okay, I'm breaking up with you, you know? And then you're like, oh my God, like, it's traumatizing. It's such a rejection. It's such a complete, I didn't even know what to do with it. I had so many issues with that kind of experience that if I hadn't had sex would probably not have been so deep. And so I think, you know, I don't necessarily know how you, as a parent, you know, I had a son, okay, and I didn't have to, the only thing that I had to worry about with that was like, okay, like, be careful. And mainly because, you know, I know people who have had their son. I know someone who had a young kid in college who impregnated someone, you know, accidentally. I mean, it was a consensual sexual experience, but she got pregnant and decided she was having that baby, and then those people that I know, they're having grandchildren, and you know, that kind of thing is very much.
I can think of worse things. Babies, they're good. We like babies.
Yeah.
But sometimes it connects you to somebody you hate.
I
and
think
then
it's like that they weren't going to really be together, you know? I don't know, like,
That kind of thing.
well, they were having sex and they're in college.
Yeah.
Like, is it now they're tied for life? That's the thing. The tied for life thing is the thing, because I'll tell you something. Having a kid, I've had two husbands, and one of them I had a kid with and one I didn't.
Yes.
And when you have a kid, you are tied to someone, whether or not you want to. Like, my ex-husband, my son's father, is still, I just was with him the other day. We luckily get along and can be around each other. We don't have like a relationship beyond like civil, and we're good with our kid, and we don't have to parent him anymore together. He's not little, but we've been able to manage that. But he's still in my life.
Yes.
You know, he's my son's dad, and even with a 25-year-old kid, I'm still gonna see him. Zachary was in town. I just saw him. He just picked him up at my house, and then we had dinner with him, and you know, so having a kid ties you to somebody.
What I'm saying is, whether the child shows up or not, whether you're on the pill or using a condom or not, the sexual act ties you to somebody forever.
Oh, yeah, it does. I mean,
It's spiritually, psychologically, emotionally. There's no, you know, I get it that this is another layer of complexity, but
Well, it's a layer because it's a human being, you know what I mean? That's a big...
The other key factor that we didn't talk about for the pill, the one other negative piece, is that it takes away the responsibility of the man. So what about put on a fucking condom? What about don't come inside of me? What about we're not having sex, right? Or no means no. And now there's this assumption, oh, everybody's on the pill. I can behave like an animal. I can do whatever I want.
Sure.
Do you see what I'm saying?
So you're not like against, like you're saying it's fine if a man wears a condom.
Sure. Yeah, well, no, I'm not against it. What I'm saying is the point of sex is making babies.
Right.
And if you're not doing it for that reason, you're probably doing it for some other reason that may or may not make sense.
Right. So you have to, well, that's what I mean. When you're young, that is really complex. And I don't necessarily, I mean, I'm telling you from my point of view, if I would go back in time to my teenage self and I had the knowledge I have now, I would not have sex at such a young age. But that's me. That's me. I would have done it differently because I definitely believe that got into my head and it was overwhelming for me as a young girl. And I think women definitely should all make their own choices about what they need and what they want. But I think everybody knowing who you are and how you react to certain things. For me, I'm highly emotional. So that was too much for me. Yes. It was too much for me.
The water. This is the water element side, right? The emotional. The tears are water coming out of your face.
I couldn't,
right?
But I'm very fiery and, you know, not being able to be, I was way too young to delve into the level of complexity that comes from a sexual relationship. I think that young girls should really consider that. There's lots of ways you can play around. Amen. Without doing that. And I mean, but that was my journey, you know, that was the journey that happened for me. I went in there, I did it. And then I, you know, had to deal with that. And I had an intense relationship as a young woman like that. And that's, I don't know, I wouldn't, you know, I told my stepdaughter about that. Like I explained to her that I did not think was the best way to go. But again, I can't sit on her shoulder everywhere she went. You know what I mean? You can't tell everybody what to do. That's the worst thing about life, isn't it? You can't tell everybody what to do.
Unless you're a yoga teacher. Boss,
well, maybe that's why.
Left foot up.
Maybe that's why people like it. Step your right foot forward.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially like powerful men, right? You get a chance to be told what to do. I think that's a psychologically appropriate.
I will say though that being a yoga teacher, when I get a chance to practice without having to freaking memorize the sequence and like be in the front of it, I'm like, oh, this is great. You know what I mean? Like I love it. I'm like, oh, I don't have to do it. You know,
are you able to let go without judging?
It took me a bit. I mean, building the business and building the studio, yeah, no, I could get like in my head a lot, but that's only because I care so much about, and I wanted everybody set them up for success. But I had to learn to let go. I had to learn to let, you know, it's not rocket science. And again, there's a whole idea of you got to let go a little bit of the control of what's going on. And when you're building a business and you want everything to go a certain way and you want to be successful in what you do, because, you know, there's this level that you put on yourself. I've started to realize though, none of it matters. I mean, do I have food on my table? Am I doing something that I like and believe in? Yes. My overall healthy besides the stupid wrist? Yes. I mean, there's so much of that we worry about that doesn't even matter, like at all. And I think about when I would, you know, criticize certain things about teachers or whatever, like don't do this, don't step there, don't whatever. But I think some of it was that I was trying to help. You know, I know that like things that I did that I know I wouldn't do, you know what I mean? So it's like, you don't want to do that. I guess I feel like if you're paying me to train you, then I should give you all the best of things that I can help you with when you're in training, because isn't that what it is? Training, you know what I mean? But also, sometimes you got to figure some shit out on your own. And I started to realize, like, here's the thing. Nothing is the best teacher except experience. And so if I tell you 1,000 times to not do something because it's not, until you do it and realize why it sucks, you know what I mean? You're gonna, I mean, you're not necessarily gonna, just because Suzanne says to you in teacher training, like, don't do this and don't say that and don't use the word drop, like, you're not gonna, like, until you hear yourself. That's why we encourage our yoga teachers, like, we have them, like, look back at these, like, videos that they do so they can see how it is and they can feel it, and it kind of, like, that they learn from experience. Everything that I've ever done that was a big flop or a failure or just sucked, I knew it when I did it. You know what I mean? Like, you do it and made a mistake and whatever. You can drive home in the car and be pissed about it. It's done. And then you live to teach another day.
Amen.
Yeah. Amen.
Let's get a picture.
Get a picture.
Thanks for doing it, Suze.
Thanks for having me.
God bless you. Thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for healing Pittsburgh, taking care of people.
Healing Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we need it.
Well, we love Pittsburgh. I tell you what, Pittsburgh's a good town, and I'm glad that they're doing some yoga.
They're lucky to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. All right, let's do a picture.
We're going to get a real one. We didn't get a real picture last time, I don't think. I don't think so. I wasn't really doing it.